And so I did all that beautifully and forgot to have my microphone on. Never mind. Okay, microphone's on and we'll keep going. So we shouldn't have any apologies, should we? Because I think everybody's here. So no apologies tonight. We'll move on to disclosure of members' interests. Has anybody got anything they need to disclose? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've got the same thing and the review.
Representation review.
So both of
us.
Okay, so you feel you're better off doing that around the council rather than from a community board perspective? Okay, all good.
And the other one was sports one too.
Okay. Oh, yep. John. Yep, so.
John, I think if people declare, then that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Yep, so he
I mean,
won't take part. Yep.
You can take part if you want to,
If he's
John. It's up to you. But you know, the general discussion isn't just about the RSA, so it's up to you. But yep.
just need to be clear on whether he's declared an interest, because if he's declared an interest and he takes part, then we can't.
Yeah. So yeah, so do you want to
just in terms of we need to be clear on whether you're declaring an interest or not, just because in terms of when we do the minute, simply for those people that declared an interest and they don't speak, we note down after the meeting that they didn't take part in the discussion. So board member Wood, were you declaring an interest in that item or the alcohol? Yep. Will you declare it? Will you go? Did you decide whether you're going to declare an interest in the alcohol item or not? You're not going to declare an interest. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, John. Okay, so we'll move to pages 10 to 14, which is a confirmation of the previous meeting minutes. Get my computer to go again, because it's turned off, hasn't it? Okay, yes, it was a nice short meeting for that one. So if I can have someone to move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of June 2024 as circulated with the agenda are a true and correct record of proceedings. John and Kane, all in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, so now we get on to the nitty-gritty with the local alcohol policy, alcohol fees bylaw and the alcohol control bylaw. So that was pages 15 to 350. I do hope everybody read every single word of all of those documents. So what we need to do is, first of all, just need to decide whether we do want to make a submission. And if we do, we just need to go through and answer some questions in regard to the policy. I did have some things I wanted to. Oh, Mika is there. Sorry, Mika, I didn't see you there. Yes, she is here. So welcome, Mika. I will hand over to you. Everyone says they've read every page and every word. So we won't expect you to go through every page and every word. But if there's anything you'd like to highlight, or if any board members have any questions, we'll ask away if that's okay. But if there's anything you'd like to highlight first, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Cool, thanks, Ange. No, you said everything beautifully. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it's just the consultations open on the local alcohol policy, the alcohol control bylaw and the alcohol fees bylaw, and that's open until the 12th of September. Sorry about all the information in your agenda. It's mainly just there so that you have the same information in front of you as what the councillors had. when they approve the draft for consultation. The main thing is just the statement of proposal document that outlines what has been changed. But yeah, I'm just here if you have any questions, but otherwise go for it.
Okay, lovely, thank you. So I did actually have a quick question, and that was in regard to page 142, where it says that the council, the Cambridge Memorial Hall and the Event Centre have been excluded from the bylaw. So I just wondered about that. In the event of someone, this is just a hypothetical thing and possibly it would never happen, but a hypothetical thing. If someone decided to be cheeky and went into the event centre with a crate of beer, if it's excluded from all the bylaws, could somebody do that?
It's the purpose of that is more that these are places where there's frequently community events held. And so it's still, if you're, you might still need a license, depending what you're doing there, but it's just to make sure that, you know, while you're technically on public land, you know, in the library or in the council building or whatever, you know, you're not breaking the bylaw. It's a bit of a funny one,
Okay.
but it's more just because those are seen as public places.
So on that, it includes the event centre, but it doesn't include the library with that community room.
Yes, sorry. That is a good point. They currently, yeah, you do need to get a special license, I believe, to host an event there. Let me just double check. But yeah, I believe you are right. Sorry, I can't remember the exact technicality, but that's a good point to perhaps put in your submission if you do make a submission.
Okay. I'll just do a quick scribble on my piece of paper. Event centre, because then that versus library.
Because they would
Hopefully I'll
only
remember this.
really be the Te Awamutu library as well.
Yeah, but then thinking with the Cambridge Town Hall, that's used for lots of events, not just, you know, like council run events. So then how does,
That's administered a bit differently.
so even though it's you know, like even though it's got these exclusions around the bylaws, when it comes to a private function being held there, they are still under the
It's more
bound by the bylaw and by the
yes,
policy.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I just couldn't quite get my head around that because I was
It's
like,
just because one's a bit more public than the other.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions at this point? For Mika, would you like to go through, and if something pops up as we get
I've
to
got
it?
just a quick
Kane?
one on the one-way door policy. I just want to understand that a bit more. So one-way door restrictions mean people can leave a premises, but after a certain time of night, they cannot enter or re-enter the premises. I'm just struggling to understand that a little bit.
Yep.
So, for example, if they haven't drunk at all, they're not able to re-enter. Is that right?
The purpose of a one-way door policy is kind of to avoid everyone potentially leaving at the same time or drinking too much essentially. So yeah, say it's 11 o'clock. This is as an example. Everything's sort of starting to wrap up a little bit. Some people are still drinking, but others are done, and so they leave, and perhaps they go to a different bar, get some other mates, and they decide to come back and continue the party, they can't come back in. It's a discretionary condition for the, even though it's a bit different, but it is for generally for the district licensing committee to decide if it's appropriate for that venue. It's usually venues that would see a certain type of patron, I guess. Yeah, so it's basically not used very often, but it's to try and crowd control.
But there will be still some discretion. Is that what do I hear that correctly?
Yes,
Or
let me just,
is that like firm for everyone?
it's a bit different depending which one. Let me just find the exact wording. So for yeah, it's just at discretion for club licenses, so it may be applied. And for club licenses, it's more just we only have two clubs that fall into that category, and that's more for crowd control for the club licenses, and then for the on licenses is also definitely discretionary. Yeah, it's may be applied. So council is just suggesting these premises might be appropriate for this license, but it's up to the district licensing committee to decide when they issue the license if it needs a one-way door policy or not.
Okay, thanks for that.
Did anyone else have any questions at this point? I had another curiosity one, seeing as no one else has. How did they come up with 40 metres for the distance from an off licence if we've got a new off licence? It was an existing thing, but do you know how they came up with 40 metres?
I don't know, sorry, it was before my time.
Yeah, no, it just sort of seemed quite random, 40 metres. I just wondered if anything had filtered down at all. And then just one other very quick question, and this was just a curiosity one, was in regard to the club sizes. Do we actually have any clubs that have more than 1,000 members in Waipa?
Just the RSA.
Only the RSA.
Really, yeah.
You've got 1,000 members. Wow. Okay. Cool.
I've got a question about the fees.
Yep.
I'm not too sure if you mentioned, just wondering why the fees are set for this now. Why do they not go into the fees and charges schedule?
It's a bit of an anomaly. It's not up to council on that one. Unlike other fees, central government set this one. And why, it's just one of those things, but it's what the hand council's been dealt. And so central government set this in legislation in 2013. And so council hasn't been able to adjust that with inflation over time. And the only way you can adjust it is this funny little thing that allows you to make a bylaw. And it's a tool that, and it's not even a normal bylaw, it doesn't made under the Local Government Act like normal bylaws. It's made under a order, and it is a bit of an anomaly, but it is the only tool available to council to adjust these fees. And it is being used more and more. Like Kapiti Coast, I think, just adopted their bylaw. Southland did it in Wellington, adopted it during COVID to change those fees. And yeah, now more and more councils are using it. It is an anomaly. It is just a funny thing. But if this does get introduced, it will still be different to the other fees and charges, but it will happen at the same time to try and make it the same as other fees, basically.
Okay, thanks, Mika. Thanks, everyone. All right, so let's press on with what we've got in front of us. So we need to just yes, please. Joe's just going to pop it up on the screen, but we just need to run through the various questions that are in the submission, and then if there's any other points that everyone or anyone would like to have included, we can make a note of it now so that we have our discussion here in our meeting. So let's start. So our first point is, do we support or not support the changes to the list of higher risk on licensed premises and their trading hours? So the, hang on, I need to probably find that actually, because I can't remember just from off the top of my head what it was either. Yeah, Mika, can you remember what the list was, just to refresh us on that? Sorry, it just. Where's the page that I want? Unmute you. Hang on, I'll see if I can, I'll just go back.
Sorry,
Oh, no.
I was on mute.
Don't you go away. Come back here, you.
So
just-
the list has been expanded to be in line with what the Act says. So it now also is proposed to include Class 1 restaurants. So Class 1 restaurants have an area that's a bar that's run as a tavern for at least one night a week. So it's a separate area where the main purpose is the sale of alcohol, whereas a restaurant, normally the main purpose is selling food. So including that.
So that would include someone like Fahrenheit, would it? Seeing as they've got that little separate bar, or would they still fit into the general because it's more part of their restaurant?
I don't know, sorry.
Okay, just trying to get a sort of a gauge
Yeah,
on what
no,
that might look
good
like.
question. Sorry, that is not really my area of expertise. Yeah, sorry, just gonna have to imagine that one. I can't confirm. But there aren't that many.
And
I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm not even sure if we have any Class 1 restaurants. But there's very, very few, if we do. And also including other licensed premises that are listed in the sale and supply of alcohol regulations with a weighting of 15, which is the higher end. We just didn't want to define all of them basically, but what that is a Class 1 restaurant, a nightclub, a tavern, and an adult premises.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so how do we feel about that? Do we support or do not support the list? Changes to the list of higher risk on licence premises.
Apologies. The hours reduced by 1 hour from 9 a.m. till 2 a.m. currently to 9 a.m. till 1 a.m. the following day.
Yeah, because I think that was the main focus of the question, wasn't it? Where are the actual submission questions? Changing. That's what I want. Wait, back up the bus. Yeah, so it was more about, let's be a little bit more specific. So the questions specifically were, yes, I support the inclusion of new higher risk on licensed premises and the new hours of 9 to 1, or no, I support the current list of high risk premises and the hours of 9 till 2, or other. So, Sally?
I'm into another. I support it other than the Class 1 restaurants. I don't think in our area that we need to worry about that, and the clarity is kindness. And if we take out the Class 1 restaurant, I would be a lot happier. But 9 to 1 hours,
Okay,
and I support.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm sort of 9 to 2. I'll just keep the status quo. It's my view.
John and Jill. Oh, Mika, just coming back, the higher risk premises though, that would affect, like, as, I just want to double check that includes the taverns, eh? So that would mean that our pubs in the main street would be closing at 1 o'clock instead of 2.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
so
that is,
I
yes,
actually
yeah.
think it's a good idea, having been on patrol and seeing what that looks like at 2 o'clock in the morning. So you don't pick up the pieces, and you know, people that need to be escorted home because some person is, you know, just hovering, waiting for an opportunity. So, okay, so where are we at? We can't take all night. We've got a hell of a lot to get through tonight, so need some direction. It's not allowed to be my decision.
9 to 1.
9 to 1 for John. Sally, you're a Jill.
9 to 2.
Okay, I'm actually a 9 to 1 too, so, okay, so we're going with yes for that one. Just remind me again, you want to remove the class 1. Does anyone else think that that's enough of an issue for us to request that?
Without knowing the actual numbers, if it's really, really few, then maybe it's just worth removing.
Okay. Well, if no one's against it, we can pop it in and you guys can consider it, Mika, if it's worthwhile. If it's not, does that sound all right?
We'll pass that on to the councillors.
Yep, cool. Okay, the next question, supports or do not support the changes to the rules around one-way door policies and discretionary conditions for on licenses. So do we support them? Do we prefer the current rules or other? Did anyone have any? Starting down the end?
I'll stick with the status quo.
Okay, John's a status quo. Sally?
Ditto, status quo. I don't
Yeah.
support the changes.
I agree. Status quo.
Status quo. Okay, so that one is no, we prefer the current rules. Item 3, the policy currently sets out that an off licence must not be located less than 40 metres near a sensitive facility or community facility. Do we agree with the distance? So just start down the end again.
It's been 40 metres for so long. Why do I change it?
Sally?
Put in for a reason, but I don't know what was the reason, but I'd stay with what it is.
Okay,
Yeah, I feel the same.
Jill?
I don't feel 40 metres is really enough at all, but it's been like that for a long time, so I'll stick with it.
Okay.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, so I totally disagree and think that it should be further, but I'm just going to note that. But so you guys want to leave it as 40 metres? I absolutely, after dealing with this, I mean, I'll just give you a bit of background. So basically, by leaving it 40 metres, just hypothetically, if the off licence had gone ahead at the Shell at Waitomo, then 40 metres would have allowed them to stay there. Whereas if it had been further than 40 metres, if it was, you know, like the distance was further than that, then that means that it's that little bit more difficult for some of these off licenses to be on top of a potentially sensitive site, like a school or a kindy or
I
yeah.
thought that was why it wasn't put there, because it was so close to those.
The
places.
only reason that we were able to get it not approve was, one, he backed down, but the tiny little piece of thing that we had was the fact that the frontage only just fell into the 45-degree angle, which was what disallowed it. So it was by a slither that the church was within the 45-degree angle of proximity to the site.
Not meters.
Mm.
Okay. I'll make it a bit longer then.
But that's just my thing. But if you, I mean, it's not, again, as I say, it's not up to me. It's your decision. If you think 40 metres is enough, then that's where we'll leave it. So do you want
Okay,
to
so I
stay with
thought
40
that was
metres?
because it was so close, but if that's not the case, then yeah, we probably should make it suggest it should be going a bit longer, a bit further.
Okay,
What
so,
do you suggest, Ange?
yeah, well, I personally would like to see it be further than 40 metres.
Let's go for a kilometre.
Probably not a kilometre, but I just think that it should be more than 40 metres. Whether we have a suggestion of how much further it needs to be, I'm not quite sure. If anyone's got any suggestions, it's kind of a bit tricky once you go past a certain distance.
So maybe if we're going to discuss that, my suggestion might be 100 metres.
Yeah, I kind of quite like that too,
Yeah.
Jill. Is everyone happy with that? If we suggest, that as a suggestion, we'd like to see them at least 100 metres away. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's a suggestion. It's not to say they're going to.
Do we want to change the 40 metres near to 40 metres away from? Does it sound a bit?
Well, the question is no off licences should be more than 40 metres from sensitive facilities or community facilities. And then it's got please specify distance. So we're saying 100, so we think that it should be a minimum of 100 metres. Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah, because Joe's writing that up as it's going. Okay, so the next one, item number 4, do we support the cap on off licences in the main shopping centres of Te Awamutu-Kihikihi, Leamington and Cambridge? The cap will last for the 6 years, which is the life, of the policy. It can be adjusted earlier if need be. If one premise closes or loses their licence, someone else can apply to fill that spot. So that was on pages 5 or 6 of the statement. So, Kane?
Yeah, I support that.
Yep. Does anyone object to it? Or does everybody support that we have a cap? Yep, I quite like that. Any comments around that? I think it's a good idea.
Just reducing the potential for harm, isn't it?
Yeah, yep. So if we just make a note, reduce harm. Right, the next one will be club licenses. Alcohol is allowed to be sold and supplied for the consumption on the premises to a member of the club, a member's guest or an authorised visitor, e.g. sports club or the RSA. Do you support the changes to the rules around one-way door policies and discretionary conditions for club licenses? So do we support the proposed change, prefer the current rules or other?
Well, I personally would have thought that sensible drinking went on in clubs, but perhaps I'm a bit naive, so I don't agree with the one-way door policy.
Haven't you been to a rugby club? I'm not sure there's not too much sensible drinking there.
You've also got a bar manager too that's.
Okay,
got their own
John?
reputation.
Yep,
Yeah, in the RSA, if you want to go out, you can go out and you come back in again. And there is a bar manager who if he reckons you're under the weather, he won't serve you. So I agree with Sally.
Jill?
Excuse my ignorance, Mikey, and that, so because I very frequently, probably once every 2 years, go to a place that serves alcohol, so if alcohol is served to someone who's intoxicated, is that against the law?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, correct.
thank you.
He killed the manager. We can be fine.
So your thoughts on the one-way policy though, Jill?
No, not, yeah. I think if the club has been doing its job properly, then you're not going to need that. Yeah.
Kane?
Yeah, I agree. No, I don't support that one.
Okay, so no, prefer the current rules. Next one is special licenses. There are two kinds of special licenses: on-site special licenses and off-site special licenses. A special license is used for things such as festivals, concerts, or weddings. Do you support the changes to the discretionary conditions for special licenses? Page 7. I'll just go back and have a quick look to that because I can't remember.
Sorry, I might just,
Fingertips maker.
yeah, I might just, sorry, we have clarified this a little bit as well. So for special licenses, it's the discretionary conditions, so up to the district licensing committee when they approve the license. We're proposing the addition of an alcohol management plan for events of 400 people or more, conditions relating to non-glass types of vessels to avoid injury and damage, number and kind of alcoholic beverages, engagement with police, medical officer of health and licensing inspector, queue management plan, staggered closing times for the bar areas within, and security measures.
For over 400.
Not all of those are necessarily for events over 400 people, but most of them are.
Okay. Right, so in light of that, I take it that we've had some issues around when events have been run or that other places have that don't have those things in place?
Yes, these came direct from the police, medical officer of health and licensing inspectors who deal with these events, and most of them are not so different from what's currently happening. It's just asking the license holder to have a plan in place.
Yeah, okay. Cool. All right, so what are our thoughts on this one? Kane?
Yeah, I support it if it's come from the people on the front line.
Jill? Yep. Sally? Yep. John? Yep. Okay, so everybody supports that one. Where am I next to? Oops, I've got a bit out of sync because I jumped off and went the wrong way. Right, okay, so next up we've got the alcohol control bylaw, where alcohol can be taken into and consumed in public places, the alcohol ban areas. Do you agree with the 24-hour permanent alcohol ban areas, locations, boundaries and times? So have we all had a look at that? And are we happy with that one? Yep. Okay, so we've got a yes on that one. No extra comments to be made there. Do you agree with the 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. permanent alcohol ban, locations, boundaries and times? So that's in relation to out at Bulmers and not Jones's Landing, what's the other one called? Bulmers and Arapuni Landing.
And all playgrounds and cemeteries.
Yes, and all playgrounds and cemeteries. So are we supporting that? I just have a little bit of a concern around, I get the why behind the ones out at Arapuni, but then I also know loads of people go and camp there over the summer and they're not doing any harm and they're just sitting there having a drink. It's daylight saving. You know, they'd often be sitting there having a drink after 8 o'clock, not causing any bother, and it's going to mean that they're having an illegal drink while they're there camping. But I understand that we've got a really big problem with the clowns that go out there and get
It's also going to discourage people going out there and having bonfire parties and whatever they write.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder, what does everyone think if we, like, in regard to Arapuni, that we just made it a little bit later, that, you know, maybe 10 o'clock till 8, because most of the goons don't go out until really late anyway. Sorry, any boy racer, lunatic people, but so what do we think of that? So that we support the cemeteries, playgrounds, because I mean, people don't need to be drinking in those places, definitely. Well, do they? And then we just make a recommendation that for out at the lake, that possibly we make it 10 till 8 in the morning rather than 8 o'clock. Yep, okay. All right, got that, Joe?
Sorry,
the
can I
lake.
just clarify there's Arapuni and Bulmers?
Yeah, I was just saying the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for both of those, yes, please, Joe. Bulmer. It's a funny one, Bulmer's Landing. Okay, alcohol fees bylaw, the fees paid when applying for an alcohol licence. Do we have the proposed fees increase right? So do we support the fees going up to recoup costs, basically? John?
I don't agree that the fee should go up, but the way things are, they have to go up. So we've got no, in ways, we've got no flipping option, which peeves me off in certain aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I support the increase.
Yep. Okay, so everybody's okay with that? I do too. I think it's an unnecessary evil. It's sort of, one of those user pays things, but yeah. Do you have any other comments about the local alcohol policy, alcohol control bylaw, or alcohol fees bylaw? So is there anything else that we would like to add?
Not from me.
I know council have met about it and I haven't actually watched the live stream to see what happened, but when we actually had our draft a little while ago, we had quite a few questions that the public had filled in, and with all of them, they answered roughly about 12 questions. And one of them was, what should the hours that it be sold in the supermarkets? And
Oh, yeah.
everybody had a different time, 7 till 9, 8 till 9, 8 till 10. But the council have decided to stick with what it is. So I'd just like it recorded that that I feel that they weren't, the members of the public had written all these times and that wasn't heard. And I know there were reasons like, the supermarkets were asked how they felt about it. But I did query it at the time, and I would just like it recorded that I still think that the hours the supermarket sell them are not that great. But I guess next time we come around in 5 or 7 years, it might be a little bit different. Thank you.
Okay. Mika, there was, like we did have quite a lot of discussion about reducing those hours. Are you able to say what the reason was that they did recommend to stay at 7 a.m. in the morning till 10 at night?
So yeah, after the consultation, the early engagement before we created the draft, it was going off the feedback, which was, to be fair, pretty even. It was a little bit all over the show, but the reduction of hours came out on top just in terms of numbers. So it was proposed to reduce the off-license hours 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. So from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. As opposed to the current 7 till 10. And the main reasoning, if I remember it correctly, for keeping the current hours was that the councillors believe there wasn't that much problem with the current hours. It's worked so far, and then the difficulty for the supermarkets to manage that reduction when it doesn't line up with their opening hours.
Okay. All right. Because I know I did speak to a couple of the off licenses, and they both interesting. I was quite interested to see that they were quite supportive of having the short of hours, 8 till 9, and they actually said that if they have trouble, it is that last hour between 9 and 10. Interesting that where they strike the bother. from what I could gather, most of them didn't bother to open at 7 o'clock. They left that to the supermarket. They just still opened it at 8 anyway, but yeah, that's interesting. Jill, did you want to?
Well, also the supermarkets over COVID didn't sell alcohol and they managed fine. So they can do
well,
it if they
as-
get to.
As a community board, would we like to put in other that we still support the idea of reduced hours? I mean, it's voicing what we've heard from our community.
Oh, that's right.
How do we feel about that? Just to say, you know, like,
Oh, yeah, so personally, I haven't seen enough information about it, so I wouldn't be comfortable, but Jill may have, but I don't.
yeah, I
haven't
certainly
seen enough.
did ask a few people. I know the supermarkets, that there is that issue for the supermarket, but, you know, we're not here representing the supermarkets, we're here representing our community. And, you know, like from talking to local business owners that run an off license, that was the feedback that I did get as well. And then, like you say, with the submissions and what Mika said, that's come through in the submissions, you know, if there's enough support, I mean, I'm happy to support it. Jill Kane's, he's just saying that he's not, but really, I suppose Sally and John, what do you think? That
If it came around to supermarkets being open 24 hours a day, and then are they going to say, well, we want to sell liquor for the 24 hours?
Well, that's,
You know, do we then curtail, you know, align
Yeah.
with that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's setting limits. I personally think that, you know, for health reasons, I don't think it would make any difference having it from 7 o'clock till whatever time we're talking, is it 9, 10? I don't think it makes any difference. If you're an alcoholic, you're going to get your booze anyway.
Oh,
I think This is
absolutely.
a convenient aspect for people if they work a night shift, they're coming through town, they pick up their liquor at the supermarket at 7 o'clock, and then they go home, they have their sleep, and then they're up at 5, have their dinner, might have a glass of wine, that scenario. So I'm quite happy with it as it is, as it
so
stands.
leave it at 7 till 10. John, have you got any?
No, I'm the same as Sally.
Yeah,
Same
okay.
arguments.
All right, looks like we'll just leave it.
No, I
and-
think that's
and-
fine. I was just doing it for two reasons. One is because when we did have the questions asked, everybody said different hours. And that's what we're doing. And we're here for the community, and they were saying, we don't want the same hours we've got now. So if we're standing as status quo, that's fine, but I'd just like it recorded in the minutes that I don't agree with it.
Okay, so,
Against the motion.
yeah,
You are able to vote against the motion. We could take the motion in parts, though that is not specifically referenced, but in terms of if you vote against and ask for your vote against to be recorded, we can't put any, the standing orders don't allow any reasons for your voting against the motion to be recorded.
don't know if it was one of the questions that we were
No.
specifically asked to answer. So I don't know if it's a case of voting for or against it. It was a comment initially to say, could we record it in the other? So really what we need to decide is do we want to make a comment as a community board that, you know, there was a lot of support from the community just as a comment to reduce the hours. However, it wasn't strong enough as a community board for us to press and you know, request a change. I know, is
But I
that,
think we've all.
will that
we've-
work?
We've sort of said that we don't want to support that, so I don't think.
Or
we can
else
put a
we
comment in to that
Actually,
effect.
yeah, have
eh?
to say we don't comment full stop.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think so.
That's really where we have to sit, isn't it? That,
What-
well, if one person or one or two people are saying one thing and then someone else is saying the other, this is a community board submission. We can't be saying two things in our submission.
No,
It's-
you can't, but I suppose you will put obviously the recommendation to the vote, and people can either vote for or against that submission. You could take parts of the submission that it's not a specific item in there, so it wouldn't be covered. So the thing, if you didn't support, that would be to vote against. because you don't all have to vote for.
No, okay. So, I suppose basically we need to vote then. Do you want to include in the other comments to have,
Well, that would be about we could look at a separate recommendation, because I suppose we need to. Yeah, well, it is getting complicated. Just thinking whether you could, because it's not really caught up.
you have a little think about
I'll have
that.
a
I
think
just
about
want to, I would just like to ask, would the community board be comfortable with me making a comment of the support for the way the boundaries have been done? Just from a personal level, I believe that's been a really big, a very beneficial step around the protecting places like the kindergarten that backed onto Waitomo, and those sensitive sites, churches, community, schools, etc., being further protected by the fact that instead of it only being the frontage, that they've actually created this boundary right round.
Yes, yes, I'd
is-
support that.
Yep, okay, I'll send this out to you guys for a final approval look over of the way I've worded it, but I just would like to acknowledge the work that was done in that space and the other thing I would like to acknowledge is the extra discretionary ability that's been given and decision-making that's been given to the licensing committee to look at things a little bit on a case-by-case basis rather than being really tightly legislated so that they can use some common sense. I thought that was a really good thing that's come through in this policy. And then my third thing was just to acknowledge and thank the staff and council for enabling the community board to be involved right from the beginning. It's been a really great process and I've personally found it really rewarding to be able to have input and see some of the things that we've said actually be included in there for us to go, woohoo, that's there, that's cool. Is that okay?
So with that, can we acknowledge that we received reports from the community and we looked at their points as well?
Yep. Would that be a way, would that
Maybe,
work
yeah.
for everybody?
Because
That we
otherwise, if we
acknowledge
yeah.
that what the community
Yeah.
have said, and unfortunately at this time we can't
Yeah.
support the change in the hours around the licenses.
Yeah.
But
be
we
happy
do
with that,
acknowledge
'cause,
and
yeah.
hear what they've said and it will be taken, like we'll keep our ear to the ground type of thing. Okay, I'll include something
So
that
does
basically
it
just
rather-
acknowledges it, but it's not a,
So rather than
Set
having to do
in
a separate
concrete.
recommendation.
yeah. Does that sound all right? Okay.
If the community are feeling that strongly about it, they are going to be able to do their own submissions.
Submissions.
And also, we as community board members can, as a public member, also do a submission.
Yes, you absolutely
our own
can.
personal
That's right.
submission.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's open for
Yep.
further.
Yep. So absolutely, you're right on the money, Sally. Okay, so let's move this then. Yes.
Yes, no, I just want to make sure, because I didn't have it on the screen when I was just making that change to little I. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that before you voted. That was the reference to the class 1 restaurants.
But I don't have to read every single thing
No,
out,
you
do
do
I?
not,
Good.
because I am going to go like this and you should be able to see. It will be a bit small, but you've looked through
Okay.
them all.
So,
Oh, right,
um,
there you go.
okay, so
It's on the screen.
can we please move that, I can't read that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board A receives a report of Mika Hines, Strategic Policy Advisor, titled Alcohol Policy and Bylaws Consultation, and B, that we make a submission to the Alcohol Policy and Bylaws Consultation before Thursday, the 12th of September, covering the following points that Joe has currently on the screen from 1 through to 9. And C, that we delegate the authority to the Chair of the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board, Angela Holt, to finalise the Community Board submissions to the Alcohol Policy and Bylaws Consultation in consultation with you, the community board members, and ensure the submission is received by council by 5 p.m. Thursday, 12th of September 2024. Can I have someone to move that? Kane, second, Sally. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, one done. Next. Hokey dokey, we now go to the public art acquisition, Memorial Park Bridge art installation on pages. Oh, woo. Thank you, Mika. Sorry.
Thanks.
I think she's gone. Thank you so much. Oh no, she's still popping around there somewhere. Thank you. Enjoy
Thanks.
your evening.
Spread the word that consultation's open, please.
Yes, I will. And one meeting off and I'm rusty and terrible as ever. But thank you. Really appreciate you popping in to see us. Thank you. Okay, so back to where I was, pages 351 to 385. By the looks, we have Brad and Anne here to answer any questions. Lovely to see you both and thank you for being available. So we're going to take this as read. But first of all, I will cut to Anne and Brad if there's anything that you wanted to highlight, and then if any of the board members have got any questions, if we can go that way, that would be great. So I'll hand over to you guys. Anne, you're on mute. Something's not liking you at the minute. Brad, is yours working? Just out of curiosity.
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yep, we can hear you. Yours is going.
Awesome. Do you want to try again and now that you see if that works? You're on mute currently. I'll take over. I will we will take the report as read. Obviously, been a fair bit of mahi to get to this point already, especially with mana whenua who have led the design of those bridges, of those bridge panels, sorry. Korotangi Paki, who is King Tuhetia's son, was the artist involved in designing these pieces of work, and they do reflect the narrative that was put forward by members from Ngawi Tōpua Waipa. And so he used their narrative, their scope to build the ideas and notions that he's put forward. So yeah, I'm happy to leave it there and let the rest of the report is read, and happy to take any questions.
I had one very quick question, and that was and this is just a curiosity question. The panels for the bridge going to Chanel Place are the ones representing the confluence of the streams. And I just wondered why it was on that bridge when the confluence is way at the other end of the park.
And are you back online with an audio now? Do you have any comment on that
I don't
one?
have a problem with it. I was just curious about the placement as to why, when it was quite a long, it was probably the furthest away of the bridges from, what is the furthest away from where the confluence actually is.
Yeah, right. No, I'm sorry, Ange. I don't have the answer at hand for that one. Sorry.
Okay. Right. So has anyone got any questions? That other than that, they look beautiful, and it's certainly going to be very exciting to see them all up. It's been long awaited, but Bruce, I'll hand over to you.
Brad, just a question. It's a simple one for you from an engineering point of view. They're amazing. I agree with that. Are they very heavy when you say they're on Bridge 5? They have to be on the display of it.
Yeah, they are. Well, I wouldn't know the way off the top of my head, Bruce, but they are 14 steel, so they will have a bit of weight to them.
Lou.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Very, very, very keen to see these go into place. We've talked about this for a long time. Just quickly, the RSA component of the signage. Can we see some of that tomorrow? Does that be presented tomorrow at the meeting? Just a visual, not so much the actual signage, just a picture, so the rest of the community discussing, or stakeholders, can actually see what we're going to get for the
Yeah,
article.
I thought we had that as part of the agenda documentation, but if it's not there, then we can certainly get a couple of copies and print and pass them around.
And also you'll be setting a date, obviously, for the blessing of those at the meeting tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, right. The kaupapa will be discussed around the unveiling ceremony, what it looks like, and the date and things. So, yep, that's tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, is anyone else, Sally?
I think the panels are beautiful. I have no untoward feeling about that. I think they're gorgeous, but what I am concerned about is that the artwork has been commissioned without the advanced approval, and I think that we are pretty particular, or the council seems to be pretty particular in my experience of following processes and things, and I just think that it's quite disappointing that the process probably hasn't been followed, sort of, from what my understanding, completely to the letter.
Sally, when you say the process hasn't been, like, what do you feel wasn't followed? I'm just not quite sure.
Was commissioned without the necessary approval, the advance approval.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yep. Yes, I recall reading that now. Yep, okay. Any other comments? Kane?
Yeah, so if it's if it's already been designed and created, what are we actually approving? Because it's already been done. Are we? Do you know what I
Good
mean?
question. Brad? Did you hear
Yeah,
that?
so yes, yeah, I did. So it has to be signed off by council, and they'll be looking to do that in their September meeting. But usually we come to the board for an endorsement. So we do acknowledge that we've had an oversight to this point, and we have put measures in place to make sure we do catch those going forward. So an example of that is we've now got kickstart meetings for all of our capital projects, just so all the stakeholders, all the ins and outs of the project are sort of captured early on in the piece, so we don't get to that same situation. So we're just looking for endorsement, really. If there was to be strong dissatisfaction with the panels, then we would have to look at alternative options and not proceed. So we're still looking to go forward and get that approval, so we can get it get them up in the next little while.
But just to be clear, though, they've already been made, right?
Correct.
Right. So we're in a really difficult situation. It's like we cannot not do it, if you know what I mean. That's how I'm just, like, they're great and all the rest of it. I'm not not knocking that at all, but it's
Sally
like
makes
you've
a
already said
fair point.
you've got to look at the process or whatever. So I'm not sure.
Brad, when are you looking at actually putting them in? What's your
We'll
date?
be discussing that with the Te Awamutu Memorial Park partners and stakeholders forum tomorrow.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I haven't read my agenda yet for that. That's tonight's digestion after this one. Yeah, we've just had a few too many pages coming at us this week to try and read everything. So, okay. So, but you haven't got people, a team penciled in, because I presume there's specialists putting these panels up. They're not just, or are the parks team, are they capable of putting these in?
No, we'll have contractors that will put those in,
Yeah.
and we don't have a date for the install yet.
Okay, so there's not a date for the install. So if we don't know when the install is, how are you going to decide when the unveiling is? Or were you planning to work backwards from that?
Yeah, so that's what we'll be discussing tomorrow, Ange.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, no, got it. Okay, is there anything else? They do look amazing, I have to say. I thought they look really cool. It's going to be very exciting because it has been a very long time waiting for these panels to be completed. So, all right, if there's no further questions, can we please move that the Te Awamutu and Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board, A, receives the report of Anne Blythe, Director, Museum and Heritage, titled Arts Policy, Public Art Acquisition, Te Awamutu Bridge Art Panels, and B, that we endorse the proposed public art as set out in this report for the installation of art panels on 5 walking cycling bridges within Te Awamutu, specifically 1 crossing the Mangapiko stream on State Highway 3, 1 crossing the Mangahoi stream connecting Mutu Street and Chanel Place, 3 crossing the Mangahoi stream in the Te Awamutu War Memorial Park. And is that all of it? Have I got all of them? Okay, so that's all of it, eh?
Yep, that's all of it.
Yep, that's all of it, sorry. Right, so can I have someone to move that? John, second. Lou, all in favour? Against? Sally, carried. Cool, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you, Anne. I'm not sure if you can hear us. Maybe you can, there's a little smile there, but thank you.
I'll see you why.
Okay, see you tomorrow, Brad. Righto. So next on our agenda, oh, Melissa's there. We have the 2025 to 34 long-term plan progress report on pages 386 to 388. Excuse me, councillors, it'd be good if we can stick with where we're at here and keep your conversation separate. Lou, please. So again, we're going to take this as read. We have Melissa Russo here. So does anyone have any questions in regard to the LTP and the information that we have been provided in regard to timeframes, etc., or any questions in general that they're concerned about or just wanted to raise? No. Lost. I'd like to say congratulations on a massive effort yesterday. Wow. Just yeah, being able to come along and see just the very difficult situation that we are currently facing, and you know, like the different ideas and possibilities of trying to deal with those financial stresses and strains that, you know, have been brought upon us through things like inflation and higher interest rates and just stuff, I suppose, really, increased compliance costs. It certainly was a lot to digest, but very interesting and really appreciate it. I take it you would have received my email that I had promised I was sending you last time. So just to bring everyone into the loop, I flicked Melissa a quick email just asking if there was any chance of a couple of things to be added to the LTP, being things that are in our plan for a little bit of funding to be allowed to do the alteration in the George Street car park. Brian had got back to me between our last meeting and now to say that there wasn't enough funding in the maintenance budget to be able to pay for moving and doing a bit of landscaping to move the retainer wall back by the toilet. So I've just asked if there was any chance that that could be included. And I also asked if it could be considered that there was some sort of budget put towards zhuzhing up our street periodically so that there was some money set aside that, so instead of the street getting tired and sad and then coming into the LTP to say, hey, we need to find a whole lot of money to be able to do it, that it's something that's built in like an operational cost that's just there every however many years that it needs to be to maybe freshen up some paint and, you know, maybe put in some pot plant, you know, not a huge amount of money, but some money. So yeah, just to bring you into the loop. But has anyone got any questions? This is great, Melissa. I think I'm going to print this out so that I've got it in my book to refer to. So I like being able to see
Yeah,
where
and-
things are happening.
And thanks for attending yesterday, Ange. I know it was pretty hard going. It's a lot to get your head around, even for somebody who's dealing with this stuff all the time. So, yeah, it was great to have you there.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of acronyms and things. I'm going, oh, now what was that again? A special purpose, whatever. So even Bill's nodding, going, oh, and Dale. Yeah. But no one got any questions for Melissa? We've dragged her out just to
I
say
guess
how amazing.
one thing that might be of particular
Oh,
interest
I
that
love
I'll just point out, the workshop, the next workshop on the 10th of
10th?
September, we'll be talking about key projects. And this is normally where it starts to get quite interesting from the community's perspective, because you can kind of see tangibly the things that are going to be discussed in terms of what that might mean for what happens out in the community and stuff. So that one might be of particular interest to you. So I just wanted to flag that.
Yep. No, that was my next question, is that we'll be allowed to come along to that one?
So our starting position is that our workshops will be open to the public, but I can't hand on heart say if it's open or closed yet. We are still pulling together the material for that. Just
Workshop,
trying to get through yesterday's one first.
Yeah, okay, no, all good. Okay, well, if there aren't any further questions, we can move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board received the report of Melissa Russo, Strategy Manager, titled 2025 to 34 Long-Term Plan Progress Report. So can I have someone to move that, please? Sally, second. Bruce, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Melissa. We'll
Perfect,
see you
thanks.
again soon.
So,
Thank you. Okie dokie. So now we move on to pages 389 to 485. And we have the report from Joe in regard to the representation review. Joe, did you have anything you wanted to comment about that we need to be aware of before we get started on this one?
No, other really just to introduce the proposal. So that this is what you have presented as the paper that was presented to Finance and Corporate Committee on the 30th of July, which adopted an initial proposal for the representation review structure, which looked at changing, dropping down the number of general ward councillors from 10 to 7. As a result of the drop in number, we've had to have a look at how those rural wards are structured, and the proposal includes combining the current Mangatotiri and Prongia-Kakapuku general wards. And it also included some minor boundary changes in the Karapiro area over the other side of the district. The only changes that were proposed in relation to the community boards was to marry up the ward boundary changes that were reflect those in the community board subdivision boundaries as well. So we didn't have people that were over that side of the district that might be voting for a Cambridge councillor and Mangatotiri community board member, because that was thought that might be confusing for people. So only very minor changes made in the community board area, as well as the change, because of the change, as well to the rural wards. There is also the proposal that you will see in terms of a structure about your councillor representation, that it will either be 2 appointed members from the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi General Ward and all the Waipa Rural General Ward. So councillors are appointed at the start of the triennium, and in that scenario, that would mean that the council would be able to choose, depending, as long as they chose 2 people from either of those wards, they could choose which ones seemed best to kind of balance the or support the needs of the community board. So any questions?
We'll pop the submission up, and then we'll go through. just can't remember whether I saw the submission attached and was it in our agenda, the actual questions for this one?
It's on the email.
That's right, you did too. I knew it was somewhere that I just looked at it. Thanks, Deb. It's just a bit easier to have the actual questions. Not that one. Oh. Yesterday, where are you? Debs. Oh, did Zoe send it? No. There you are. That one, though.
482.
Righto, so, okay, so the first question that we have in regard to the representation review is, do you support all aspects of this proposal? So as a general discussion, where are we sitting?
Yeah, so I'm totally against this representation review. I think it's a complete waste of money and time for the staff. I think it would have been more sensible to wait until the multi-ward is sorted after the next election and then have a discussion then. I don't believe reducing the number of councillors is going to help democracy at all in this district. And I think we need diversity of thought, which is only going to come from a variety of voices. I listened to the representation review. There was a couple of things that really surprised me. Two comments in particular. One was from Marcus Gower, who said that, what if we get a populist in and we've only got 8 councillors or 9 councillors with the multi-ward? And I just wanted to point out to Marcus that, or Councillor Gower, that populist means that they've got votes, people have voted for them. And so what they're saying is actually popular. That's why people have voted for them. So I think that struck me as quite odd. And then the other thing that was said was there was discussions around vetting and a vetting process. And Councillor Montgomery went into a process they used at Fonterra. We're a district council. We're not a multinational corporate conglomerate. I personally do not want some group who will be picked telling us who to vote for. And what concerned me was Councillor Montgomery said it was very clear who to vote for. That really concerns me, and I do not want us to go down that vetting route. So that's my thoughts on it.
I suppose just in terms of, just if I clarify that any kind of vetting process is not part of the representation review, and anything that came in like that would need to be the subject of legislative reform. So it would need to go through that legislative process and become part of the act or the regulations before anything like that could be introduced. Because, you know, at the moment there is there's some very kind of basic requirements in terms of people standing, and that's about completing the form, being nominated by 2 people in the area that you're standing in, and paying your $200 deposit. So in terms of the legislation, it's that those are the only requirements, and anything else would require a legislative change.
Cool.
Thanks for that, Joe. I was just clarifying because that was discussed at the representation review.
And I would just like to add that on Mike's behalf, because I had a chat to him subsequently after that workshop that they had, and he actually said to me, I'm not saying that I think that's what we should be doing as a council. It was in response to a specific question he was asked by another councillor who said, I believe Fonterra do it this way, and he gave it as an example of what they do. So hear your concern totally, Kane, and I think that these things, this is the opportunity to raise our concerns, because, you know, potentially if we don't raise the concerns as part of this process, that that could be something that becomes a legislative change down the track. You know, it's just, I think the opportunity to air our concerns, even though it's not specific to what we're going to put in the representation review, because that was discussed at the meeting. Yep, yep, cool. So other comments in regard to that general?
Just as a general question, I totally agree. We should stick it to 10 and not go down to 7.
Yeah, so any feedback based on that? You know, like reasons
Yes,
behind it?
I think that with 10 people, you get more of more of your different areas of the community and your rural wards, and you that can talk. I actually have spoken to someone who was thinking of standing for council next year, who thought it was a great idea to go down because the 7 councillors might get, if there was a pocket of money, they would, and it would still be dished up within 7 people rather than 10. So that person thought it was a good idea. So I just think that to stick to the 10 and get the representation, that's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Sally, John, you guys got any?
I personally think it's disappointing that it's got this far, but I believe that the representation, this is what it's all about, and that 10 heads is better than 7, because you want a bigger pool of thought and ideas and representation. So that's where I sit, definitely with the 10.
Yeah. John?
I would agree with that, and the fact that if they want to do a review now, we haven't got, when you look at our finances and things, we haven't got the money to sort of throw around to have a review at this precise time anyway. Yeah, I agree with the others.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm with you guys too. This just doesn't sit well with me. As I outlined in my chair report, I just feel that there's a whole lot of things around this that if we were to reduce councillor numbers, I believe we actually need to do it in a slightly different way, that we have a very clear why are we doing this? What is the benefit to the community? Because for me, at this point, the only benefit I can see is that, and even though remuneration isn't meant to be part of it, that would be a benefit, and the decisions might be able to be made a whole lot quicker. And I have to say, I find that last one pretty light in the fact that I have watched hours of council meetings, and there are plenty of times where 3/4 of the councillors don't even comment. So I'm not quite sure how much quicker really that's going to make it. And personally, I have some real concerns around work commitments. I know how hard our councillors already work. So does that mean they're going to need to go to every single committee meeting and read and be over finance, strategic policy, you know, be absolutely over everything, that it creates a bigger workload? I saw some figures that one of the councillors had sort of just done very roughly, and that even with the added remuneration, they still potentially, for a 40-hour job, still weren't even going to be paid the minimum wage. So I don't see how that's going to attract a higher quality of person. And I've had a couple of conversations where if people want to vote for a cabbage, then we're allowed to vote for a cabbage. I know that's, you know, it's putting it super basic, but, you know, if that's what people want, we should be allowed. You know, that's democracy. If they want a populist, they vote for the populist. You know, like, I think we need that. And I'm with Jill as well around that diversity, that, you know, it sort of frightens me that if we cut it down too much, we're not opening it up to create that diversity. You know, it's hard enough to get a new person on council because incumbents historically are the ones that are known and are there. So, you know, how much harder does it mean to get us that diversity?
Yeah, just another final thought. I also listened to Councillor Petit talking about the fact that, you know, he's potentially thinking about not running again on the basis of the role and things. But I think, and I think Councillor Brown also made the point that, we want these people who are at the coalface in the community to be running on council. So I don't think we necessarily want full-time councillors. We also want people doing different things so they are connected into the community. And just
Good
to sort of
point.
have like almost a corporate director type scenario in a district like Waipa just doesn't sit well with me. And I really hope Councillor Petit does run again, because to me he's one of the better high performing councillors.
I certainly think
I hope he
Mike.
doesn't think that he shouldn't run.
Cool. So we very clearly a resounding no in that front then. So we will move on to our next question. So we can go through these questions in case that even though we've said no, that we may find that the majority say yes, that we should reduce the numbers. I did just also want to very quickly share an interesting comment that was made to me recently. So I asked a group of people at my gym, I just wanted to randomly say, hey, what do you think about reducing councillor numbers? And they went, the response was, well, with only just that basic question, they said, well, yeah, we might as well, because they don't do a lot, do they? So that made me think there's some mahi that needs to be done in that space for people to understand actually what the workload is of councillors. So I think that in our submission, I would like to be able to pop that in there, because I think it's a really important statement that needs to be taken into account, that there could be a lot of people that do a submission that believe that councillors do bigger all, so we might as well have 3 less. And that's their base reason for saying, oh, yep, let's have 3 less. Because unfortunately, they just don't realise the level of mahi that is required in the reading and the responsibility that goes with being an elected member. I was really surprised, and when I sort of talked them through and I said a few more things, they were like, oh, okay, well, we need more information. And then I said, yes, but that then poses a problem, because we give you too much information and you don't want to read it all. So I said, if you can come up with a good way to make this simple but effective, please by all means let me know. But I thought that was actually an interesting comment. So sorry to get a little bit sidetracked there, but I just thought that was quite important. Right, back to the questions. I haven't gone and closed it by mistake, have I? Please no.
I'm gonna propose that actually none of those other questions are valid anymore.
Well, I think we should still make a comment on them in the light that if the majority say that we should reduce the numbers, I think it's important that we have at least some input into those other questions and let the councillors know how we feel about those other questions. I did think that initially too, and then I thought, I'd had a little chat with Joe and I went, well, maybe we're safer to do that, so at least we make a comment about it. Yeah. So we should be able to whip through these pretty quickly. So do you agree with is the next one? Oh, hold on, I've jumped one, I think. Yes, no. Do you agree with the proposal to reduce the number of general ward councillors from 10 to 7 and combine the rural wards? So we're definitely a no on that as well. Yep. Do you agree with a minor boundary change to the Cambridge ward and subdivision to incorporate an additional area at Karapiro in the Cambridge ward? So we possibly could say neutral, but in the event of it being agreed, do we think that the minor boundary change would be the right thing to do? But probably is, eh? And it would need to, Joe, anyway, wouldn't it, based on numbers? That was what the change is for. Do we support the proposed names for the wards? These are Te Awamutu-Kihikihi General Ward, Cambridge General Ward, Waipa Rural General Ward, and Waipa Māori Ward in the event that it went through. So we'd qualify these the whole way through. Yep.
And it's about whether you support the existing names, because we're doing a representation review, so
Yeah.
this is your chance
Or-
anyway to have it, because they are just, apart from the Waipa General Ward, if you had any particular views on the names of the current wards, how they're structured, now
good
is the
point.
time and the opportunity to have that say.
So is there any comments around that? So the proposed ones are Te Awamutu and Kihikihi General Ward, the Cambridge General Ward, the Waipa Rural General Ward, and the Waipa Māori Ward. So that would replace the, oh God, can you remember what the existing ones are?
The only one in terms of its status quo, apart
Bar-
from the Waipa Rural General Ward, which is the combination of your Poronga, Kakapuku
And
and Mangatotiri.
Mangatotiri.
Yeah, so it's,
Mm.
you know, feedback as to, you know, whether you like the current name of your ward. You know, it's
I
all
would
part
just
of the
take out
process.
general, to be honest, so I'm a no on that. I would just say Cambridge Ward. Waipa Rural Ward.
What was the
It's a
point
mouthful
of being
every
general?
time you have to say it.
The general actually came when the local government commission did the decision, but you could say in response to this, you could, if you want to put something that says does not support the proposed names for the wards, or you could change it to just say recommends that the word general is taken out of all the ward names, if that's something that you would like to propose.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you want to do that? Okay, all right, so we'll remove general. We'll support the names in the event that the reduction happens. However, are we happy with the existing names if the reduction doesn't happen with the removal of general?
Happy with the proposed ward names minus general.
Yeah, but if, hang on, so there's a little bit confusing in that if it changes, it will become this, but remember, if it doesn't change, the rural ward, the Waipa Rural Ward will still be Pirongia Kakapuku and Mangatotiri. So are we happy to, if it doesn't change, that we keep the current names? If it does change, that will remove general.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, general's currently in the name
And
now.
yeah,
so-
but, and we'll remove
it-
general from both options.
Yeah, so it
Yep.
applies. So you could stick to just whatever, if it's the current structure, still remove general, and if it's the new structure that's proposed, still remove the word general. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm getting
I
the
think that
feeling
would be
that,
the
that
simplest way.
whatever the structure
Yep.
is, you don't like the
Want
word general.
general. Yep, okay, yep,
Supports
Yep.
this proposed names.
okay. So while you're
subject to
typing
the
that one up.
removing the word.
Okay, so do we support the proposed subdivision names, Te Awamutu and Kihikihi subdivision, Cambridge subdivision, Kakapuku subdivision, and Mangatotiri subdivision? So they aren't changed, are they? That's what we had.
No, they are, where are we? They are the same, exactly
The
the same.
subdivisions, yes.
Yep,
So,
no
so
change.
that's just the same as before,
But
okay?
you happy with the current name?
Yep, yep. No one wants to change them? Sally?
I really am thankful that the council have supported the Maori Ward councillor, and Dale Murray's here tonight, and I was just wondering what her perspective might be. or
I would
not.
love to hear that as well. However, right now
Okay,
isn't
No.
the right time to do that.
okay.
So, yeah, hear what you're saying, love to as well. Sorry, Dale Marie. But we just need to keep pressing on with this, and hopefully we might be able to do a detour at the end.
You don't want to be part of the decision-making process. She don't want you to be
Oh,
part of the decision
actually, that,
process.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, right after it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
done. Okay, do you support the appointed councillors? Am I on the right one? Yes. On the community boards being 2 councillors appointed either from the relevant urban general ward or the Waipa rural general ward. Now, as our 2 councillors, no, they can't, but from their perspective as councillors,
They can't.
Can they not?
No, because when someone
Oh.
declares an interest.
Yes, they do.
they're
That's
then
right.
what we're
Don't worry.
looking
I
for
just
to
was,
say they,
no.
and a little note to say they took no part in discussions and
Yes,
if
they
they
do. You're
contribute to the
right. Yep.
questions and then that kind of
Yeah, I
jeopardizes
just-
their position.
I should have asked them before we came. I was too slow. Okay, so what do people think about having two councillors? I'm certainly thinking that having two in the event that this goes through is an overkill if you've got less councillors. I actually, sometimes wonder if it's an overkill anyway, but thoughts on what other people think? Because we do have a district representative on our community board for a district. And I often wonder, that it's a good use of our councillors' time actually having two, to be honest. But what does everyone else think?
Sometimes having two councillors, their views are slightly different and we get their perspective. But I take your point on board about, okay, Cane represents the part of the urban area.
No, rural.
Rural, sorry, and a councillor thing. So there's positives in that, there's positives in both ways, how you look at it. But then, yeah, is it a waste of time having a rural councillor coming along and, if you take Bruce's case, he travels a fair distance.
You do have to travel a bit. Yep, anybody else got some thoughts about making two councillors come to our meetings?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to only have one, didn't we, in this term around? Have we always had two? So on our last, last time was Lou and Susan, wasn't it? Yeah,
And the
that's right.
time before that was
Yeah.
Andrew and Susan.
Oh, okay.
And then the time before that was, I can't remember.
Okay, thank you.
That's terrible. I've had a
So I think
blockage.
it's worth having two, and I think it's worth having a mix between rural and urban. I think two is good because then we can connect better into the council.
Yep, that's good
You know,
rationale. Okay, so what do we want to do? One or two? Kane's 4? 2? Select 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I don't mind either way. So I'll go with 2.
Well,
Makes it simple.
I suppose, just to check from what Kane's saying, are you wanting, because this is saying that the councillors could come from either of those places and the council will decide at the time, or do you want to stipulate that you?
No, if there's 2, we want one of each. Is that
Is
right?
that what you're saying?
If there's 2, we want
Yeah,
one of
so we're
each.
just slightly,
Yeah.
so it's does not support.
yeah.
And recommends
We continue to have one from each.
that be one councillor from the urban general, just follow that reading board, and one from the Waipā rural general board. Does not.
Okay. And then our final one is just general comments. Okay.
This is on the.
Oh. So are there any other comments? When I just need to add here that I spoke with one of the councillors in regard to this, and the recommendation was for us to put down all our concerns. So I'd raised those things that I've put in my chair report, and the recommendation was to include those things as our concerns, that, like, we're worried about workload, how our community is going to be, well represented. There's also the added problem that if we have one rural ward, because we actually have Pirongia in that rural ward, it's pretty much probably going to be someone from Pirongia that is going to be the two people that end up, because we're going to sort of end up with, I don't know, just sort of like that lopsidedness on our side of the district. And I'm not sure that that's particularly fair for the Cambridge Rural Committee, community. And I just wondered if you guys are okay that I use that list that I popped in of those questions, and asking the why, you know, like before we start cutting back on councillors, there actually needs to be a really good why and for me, a good explanation of how is this going to work? Because, you know, you're basically, there was also an additional comment in regard to the community boards that we're going to have a higher functioning community board, you know, that we have less councillors, a higher functioning community board, which is great, but our community board members are, as far as their remuneration goes, is I think roughly $1,000 a month. So are we having a higher functioning community board doing even more voluntarily? You know, keeping in mind that some of us work full time, and chances are if we're trying to attract some of our younger people, that they definitely are going to be working. So, you know, like there's also that sort of factor to bring in as well.
Mortgage, high rates.
More, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I really would like to see a really well thought out, these are the benefits to the community by having less councillors, in addition to the benefits to the councillors of how it's going to help them do their job better. Because I just don't see the rationale in it. But if you guys are comfortable for me to add those things in, I'll include that. So there's the things I suggested to think about in my chair report. Yeah. And that will go in those considerations. But again, I will be filling this out and sending it all out to you. So if there's anything that you're not happy with, I can make an adjustment. Sally?
Was there not a review done prior to the
last-
previous election?
yes.
So, and what came out of that? And what's the problem here that we are actually trying to fix, or, you know, so I think your questions hit the mark, and I think it's a great inclusion.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'm just typing that in.
so
Bullet point list on representation review and the chair's report included.
yeah,
in this
and we were
agenda.
going to include that comment about that people didn't know actually how much the councillors did. So in terms of their workload, they didn't know what their workload was. So for them to have 3 less councillors was neither here nor there.
So, is that covered in what you've got?
I don't think I did put it. I put it up there somewhere. I think. Is it remuneration? Oh no, I didn't put it in there. No,
And
I didn't
then,
include it in that report, but that stuff's there.
do you just want to say the visibility of the workload of councillors?
Yeah. It's probably more around the lack of understanding what the workload of councillors is.
Right. Concern that the community does not understand the workload of councillors.
Yeah.
Is that? Is that it?
Yeah, and therefore influences
That's not all right.
the need,
Which
there
will,
and-
which will influence
their perceived need for the number of councillors.
their perceived perceptions
Yeah.
options around number councillors required.
Yep, perfect. Oh, you're so good at that. Okay, righto, guys.
Okay.
Yep, I reckon. Okay, so let's keep going. That the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board, A, received the report of Joe Greig, Manager Governance, titled Representation Review 2024 Submissions, and B, we make a submission to the Representation Review public consultation before Thursday, the 5th of September 2024, covering the following points as outlined on the screen. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. And have we got 8?
We've got 8, yeah.
Oh, we've got another one that wasn't on my piece of paper because yes, you're
You
right.
added that other one?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
1 to 8. And then C, that we delegate authority to the chair of the community board, Ange Holt, to finalise the community board's submission to the representation review consultation in consultation with community board members and ensure the submission is received by council by 5 p.m. Thursday, the 5th of September 2025. So can I have someone to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Kane, someone to second it? Jill, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Awesome. Well done, guys. I know it's quite hard going, and thank you, Joe and Debs, for sending us all that extra bits and bobs to make that little bit easier. Appreciate that. Righto. Now we move to, we've got more decisions to make. Sorry, you're not out of the woods yet. We've got our discretionary grants piece. Again, this is a report that Joe has done for us, Joe Greig, Manager of Governance, sitting here to my right. We go to pages 486 and 498. And we have got logged out of diligent. Most inconvenient. Sorry. Yes, please. I'll hand over to Joe to introduce it while I get back into diligent.
So this is an opportunity really. You do have a reduced funding allocation this year at 25,500, but also we haven't really looked at the grant criteria that you've had in place for some time. So it was a great opportunity to have a look at those, see which criteria that you found useful for determining whether you want to grant allocations to groups, but also to consider this report is requesting some that you decide how your approach to the funding round for 2024-25 and whether you want to have a funding round or just have the form available on the website for people to use from time to time, or to develop some other type of approach to how you wish to look at distributing funds to the community. There is, in terms of some suggested criteria in the recommendation itself that you currently have that you stick with, which is, looking at the only not-for-profit groups and clubs and organisation, not covering applications that are for events or expenses that already happened, and failure to return and accountability for may jeopardise future funding. But there is also some other criteria that are included in the report for your consideration. And that includes, this is just kind of a starter for you to think about, whether you are going to look at with the reduced sum only funding groups, clubs or organisations that have a base in Te Awamutu-Kihikihi or Kakapuku, or whether in fact you want to look at something like setting a maximum level of funding that can be applied for, or whether you have some other suggestions, recommendations on types of different criteria that you would like to put in place to make sure that you make the best use of that funding that you've got available for distribution this financial year.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I just wanted to check with you. Applications will not be considered for expenses or events that have already happened. That's already in there, isn't it?
Yeah. So what?
Pretty sure I saw
So
it.
what we have done is the ones in the recommendation are the currently the only criteria that we've got in there for you to decide on as being things to determine your application. So these while they are existing ones, these are the ones that it's recommended you kind of keep and bring through to this financial year. So these aren't additions. So if you've got other ones, because in the body of the report, I did talk about that some of them, it is recommended that you don't carry on and proceed with those. So if you wanted to add any of those back in, so for example, financial assistance will not be available from all the one source of council funding for the same purpose. So if you did want to add that back in, we'd put that back in. And that all local, the one about funding assistance will be prioritised and allocated firstly to one-off projects, fundraising events, and ongoing annual operational costs will be given a lower priority. So if you did want to have a in terms of looking at your grants, if you do want to make annual operational costs a lower priority, we could put that criteria back in. We would put that criteria back into the recommendation. Lift that if you wanted to. So over to you.
Okay,
You
all right.
guys bored?
Okay, okie dokie. What are we thinking here? So our first one is that only not-for-profit groups, clubs or organisations can apply for funding and must be providing a local community or welfare service for the benefit of the wider Waipa community. I'm going to put my pennies worth in there at the start and say I'd actually like to see that slightly changed to say for this round Te Awamutu-Kihikihi, so we're quite specific about our area.
I'll pull that criteria from the report.
Well, it was just changing the word Waipa, wider Waipa, because that means someone from Cambridge could still apply to us, and that was something that we were trying to, because we've got that other one there, haven't we, that
But
says,
it's not.
no, but it sort of contradicts itself that we've got only funding groups, clubs or organisations that have a base in Te Awamutu-Kihikihi or Kakapoku. So because we've then said for the benefit of the wider Waipa community, it just needs to align with that if we want to leave that in.
I totally agree, Ange. When you've got in the criteria on the second page of what page 288, all local community projects will be considered, but you get national groups applying. So
Yeah.
that's exactly.
So I think for this round, we agreed that in the workshop, we had talked about, I shouldn't say we agreed, we had talked about that we wanted to keep it to local way. So, and that means not Cambridge and Pirongia this time either, unfortunately. It's Te Awamutu-Kihikihi and Kakapoku. It's our ward this time.
So I can bring that through.
Yeah, if you can bring that one through.
But you'll also be adding it because we've got to add in Kiki and Kakapoku too.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So I'll put it on screen once we're done.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because I changed that wording to say within the boundary of the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Ward.
Oh, okay.
But or else you could put it, I don't, is there any preference how we say this? So we say Te Awamutu-Kihikihi and Kakapoku, or within the boundary of the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Ward? Yeah, okay. I've got some wording.
Great, I'll take your wording.
Another one I've just put down, did we want to decide on capping the amounts at 2K for this time?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that's an excellent idea. I as I say, but I feel that we need to spread it out as much as we can.
Yeah.
You know, we have not got a large fund to work with.
No. So for this round that we put in a cap of 2K? And I presume we're sticking with the retrospective stuff, that if it's done and been, that's a no-go. I know there was a bit of discussion around that, and there were a couple of fairly valid sort of reasons, but I mean, I don't know what everyone else thought. I was kind of happy to say no. If it's been and gone, then the boat sailed. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Jill, did you have something that
Yeah,
you
I've got a
wanted
couple of
to?
things. So the one where it says if you're applying to more than one community board or committee for financial assistance, the same purpose because of your activity. So I think that just needs to be worded differently because we're only going to, like in
Yeah.
that first comment, going to only do our Waipa, our Cambridge.
Yes, so that will need to
sorry,
come
our
out, won't it?
Awamutu-Kihikihi area.
Yeah,
So
so
It's not, it won't be in there, so.
It won't be in
so
there?
on our form though, there
Oh.
won't be an option for Cambridge and Pirongia.
No.
It'll be just, that
it'll
was
just
something that we
be just
noticed,
the,
yeah.
yeah, just
well,
you can only tick the one box.
Yeah,
there.
once you settle on the grant criteria, then we'll go
Then the
through and
box-
we'll make the
Okay,
appropriate.
yeah.
No, that's fine. And the other
changes
thing
to-
I think is, just my opinion, funds not uplifted within 12 months from the allocation date will lapse. After 12 months, the applicant will have to reapply for funding. I think if they really needed it, they needed to spend it within that 12 months. So don't reapply. They have to return the funds.
I agree
And ask
too. I'm
again.
still supportive
Yeah.
of that as well, because it's tight, it makes it much tidier than having things sitting in our discretionary fund account that's just sit there and sit there. So that, yeah. Anyone else got any other things that they thought of?
Sorry, and the other thing is that I couldn't see anywhere on the form, and maybe I wasn't looking properly, and we talked about it in the workshop, was just to say that on the new form would say that they had to do, on the application form at the bottom, it needs to say within a year, we need an accountability form because it is not written on the actual application form.
No,
It's
so,
not, but
no,
it is
'cause-
on the criteria
yeah,
form.
because what we've done, we haven't changed the application form yet. Waiting for you to settle on your criteria, and then we will go through based on what you decide in terms of criteria and make those changes.
So we don't need to worry about
the form.
at all, because there were some other random things that we talked about taking
yep.
out. So we don't need to have a
No.
resolution to take those
No,
random
because-
things out.
Because the funding form is really an operational
Yep,
aspect
sweet.
of the grant.
Okay, so we
what
don't
we're
have to-
really looking for you as decision makers to agree that grant criteria, because that will
Yep.
really affect who gets funding and who doesn't. So that's
Yep.
the important
Yep,
decision
so-
that you make, and then we'll just drill down and we'll include update the form. There's some changes in terms of rearranging, formatting things, make sure all your criteria are appropriately corrected based on where you land tonight.
Okay.
And we can just circulate that afterwards, just to make sure everyone's happy with it once we've got all those criteria and everything appropriately reflected.
So are we hoping, Joe, that that will be done by our September meeting so that then we can people can start applying for money?
Well, so hang on, come back one
Oh,
step a
okay.
little bit. No, just, but you raise a good point. So do we want to have a single funding round, or do we want to have people just be able to apply through the year? How do you want to do that? Because that's quite an important bit.
I reckon that single funding point, that's just my preference. Then you can have a clear head and know exactly how much we've got, and we can divvy out it on one lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I sort of could see. Yep. Is that good with you guys?
To hold one funding round.
Yep. So, okay, so we're going to stick with a single funding round, less what we want to use for the projects that we've got lined up. Yep, okay.
Questions for Joe. Because we're going to have a single, Pirongia's having a single, and Cambridge will probably have a single. Do you want them all in the same month, or would you rather we had it in 1 month, Cambridge another month, so that your workload was spread?
Just in terms of, it would be better if it was all together, because actually then we can because we do ads and things in the paper on Facebook, and we'll do communication releases. It would just makes much more work and expense on that front. So ideally we would have everyone go together. So we're still Pirongia's decision will be in a couple of weeks' time. But Cambridge were keen on one round. So they've already decided that. So we'll just wait on Pirongia, and then hopefully we can be in touch with some dates.
Okay. Where did I put this? Okay, so
Anything else you want me to just?
yeah, I just want to
share
make
with?
sure that we haven't forgotten anything. Lou?
Yeah, I just agree with you. I totally agree with the idea of changing some of the questions and not considered relevant. Having filled in these forms quite a number of times, I just feel like the location of facilities on a private property, what does it matter? I mean, it's nothing to do with anyone. And also, when you're asking for balance sheets, we don't need annual accounts going back 3 or 4 years, 5 years. They're irrelevant, you know, and particularly with large organisations.
Yeah, because they seem.
Just makes it very, very difficult.
I would actually quite like to propose, I know there were a couple of people at our workshop that said, oh no, I'd like the whole lot. But I would quite like to see that the criteria says that they send us a profit and loss, they send us a balance sheet, a current bank statement, and their budget for the project that they're wanting to do. I think we can get a really good picture, and that they need to clarify and tag any funds if they have a big chunk of funds, just to say, you know, this is actually going to pay for wages for our organisation. So even though it might look like we've got a lot of money in our bank account right now, this is already taken care of. But that's, for me, that would be great. I look at it and go, yep, assets.
Don't they provide some sort of bank confirmation as well?
A deposit slip in
and
the
that
event that,
statement.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we can cover that off in the operational aspect of the form, so we can certainly circulate that around once we finalise these criteria.
But I certainly don't want to see cash summary pages and all the other, you know, all the breakdown and depreciation and like. I like it when I'm being nosy and I have time, but when I've got a whole lot, I just want to know balance sheet, profit and loss. Where are we? Boom. Yep. Okay. So I just want to recap. So we want to cap it. We're going to have a single funding round. We're going to cut down on the amount of bank financials that we request. We're going to stick with no retrospective, and it's going to be local only, being the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi board ward within that boundary of people. So they need to be from here. So it's very much supporting local. Yep. So is that, do you think I've got everything?
Yeah,
I
so
hope.
we won't need to cover off the detail of what information they supply in the grant criteria,
Okay.
because it's not a criteria, it's about.
Is it not?
No, because it's not normally it's not a stipulation. The grant criteria about how you decide who's going to be funded.
Oh, the other one that's important, you've just reminded me, is the comment in regard to are we giving capital projects priority over operational projects, or is it just going to be at our discretion? I think someone made a very good point that, you know, for a lot of organisations, trying to get that operational stuff is actually where they struggle the most, because it's harder to get funding from like lotteries, or not lotteries is probably not a good example, but from a lot of those big trusts and funding places, because they don't fund, you know, like wages and things like that. So if we've got a little group that's struggling to pay, that it's at our discretion whether we choose to go one way or the other. What's the thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's at our discretion's a good idea.
What do you think, Kane?
Then you're going to get lots of those sort of requests, aren't you? Andrew?
I suppose the thing is, the clearer you can be with the community in terms of in those groups, in terms of what you'll fund, like you know, you don't want people going to the time of putting in applications if they're not something that you want to fund. But if you do want to be looking at people that maybe that operational is harder to find. So I suppose
we've always done them previously, so I kind of don't, you know, like it hasn't come up for a long time where we've said, oh, we're going to do this one and not that one because it's operational. We actually have still supported the operational funding.
We have used it to filter them out, though.
Well, not for a long time.
Well, do what we've always done then.
so that criteria used to be was in the current one that you've like
So
pre this. So this, it's not in this list here. But we can add it in depending on what you want to do. So you previously had, all local community projects will be considered. Funding assistance will be prioritised and allocated firstly to one-off projects / fundraising events. Ongoing / annual operational costs will be given a lower priority. So that doesn't currently feature in the list you've got there on the screen, but you can add it depending on where the discussions lead.
I'd quite like to change that a little bit because I believe that that current wording potentially could get us into trouble if we did choose to support someone operational and for some reason didn't choose a capital one. Because we're saying we will prioritise the capital over operational.
So that's one of the criteria in the report that's removed.
Yeah, but
So
if we want it back
Add
in.
it in, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just need to subtly, if we leave it and if we want to put it back in, I think we just need to subtly change it because when I read it, I went, oh, technically that's saying this, isn't it? It's quite black and white. There's no grey, which was why I was thinking that we, that we just, it's at our discretion whether we give or we don't and not specify, but where are you guys at,
But
Bruce?
Ange, with capital now and smaller amounts getting divvied out, that there's not going to be that.
Well,
big
that
ones gonna
too,
sit.
yeah.
There'll be more operational ones, or did you say the smaller ones?
Yeah, that's probably a very good point too for $2,000. We're not probably going to get we want to paint the hall type of stuff or those bigger capital type expenses. All right, what's our suggestion? That we put it back in, that funding assistance will be prioritised and allocated to one-off projects, fundraising events, or I don't know, how do you want to work? If you put it back in, how do you want to say it? Or just not worry about putting it in and leave it out? I mean, and it just continues to be, it just will be at our discretion. And we can see how it goes. And next year, if we find, if it's a nightmare, we can always. Oh, yeah, how's that?
I wonder whether you need to add that, will that get you any different place than if you're silent on that? Because
No,
it's kind
probably
of,
not.
no. I mean, I suppose, the thing is, like, you can always try something and then if it doesn't work in terms of your allocations and you're finding that it is problematic, then in the next financial year, you can change.
Communicate to the community that they can apply if they've got an OPEX.
Yeah.
That's my point. Will that be coming in under the operational stuff, Joe?
We can make sure that it's clear on the form because, previously we'll be removing that part that talks about that given a lower priority. So we will certainly, and I think that will be quite important because you have got some people that will continuously applying every year to on the form or with the material going out somewhere, kind of highlight the changes that have been made to the grant criteria to those people, so they're clear. So I think particularly
Is it worth us saying that capital or operational projects can be requested?
Will be
that
considered?
funding will be considered. So then that covers it. And because otherwise, I think you're quite right. Otherwise, people will look at the thing and go, well, what are we allowed to apply for?
capital or operational.
All projects.
Or any.
I think bring
I
some
think that
wording
probably
around it. So
clears
capital
it.
or operational projects or expenses will be considered.
Yeah.
And it's covered it on the next one down anyway, so they'll look at that and think, oops, okay, we can do that.
And we're leaving in the failure to return an accountability form may jeopardise future funding for your organisation. Definitely, yep. So we're happy with that. Is there anything else anyone can think of that we might have missed that we should be including or changing?
People see what's on the. Yeah.
I think Jo captured them pretty well in her report. So Yeah, it depends if I look at it this close, I've got to put it in with my glasses. or else- Actually, only not for half. So is everybody happy with that? Okay, if we're happy with that, I'll trust you because I can't bother reading it again. Right.
And it's 2,000 plus GST, that's,
Oh, yep, so 2,000 plus just, yep.
is that right? You happy?
Yep. Okay, so, where's my piece of paper? We need to move that. Discretionary grants, righto, but I don't need to read all of that. So that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board, A, receives a report of Joe Greed, Manager of Governance, titled Discretionary Grant Funding 2024/2025 financial year, and B, agrees to the following criteria for determining applications for discretionary grant funding as listed on the screen above, numbered. Whoa. Our number's a bit funky.
No.
What do we got? 1, 2,
3,
7, is it?
7.
7, 1 to 7. And C, we agree to hold a funding round for the distribution of the discretionary grant funding in the 2024/2025 financial year. Holds one funding round. Do you want a single or
One.
just one?
One.
Yeah. For distribution throughout the year. Yep. Okay. Can I have someone to move that, please? John, second Sally, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Righty blighty, on to the Treasury report. Which is on pages 499 to 501. And has anyone got any comments in regard to this before we approve it? I had a couple of things I wanted to ask about. Did we spend 836? We didn't spend $836 on the town cleanup, did we? Oh, that's why it's still sitting there. Okay. I was thinking that sounded like a lot. And is the 491, that's what we've got left at this point? Okay. They need to send me an invoice. And then the community health transport, they haven't collected their money. Well, they've got 2 lots. So we've got $100 sitting here and $230 sitting here for them.
Did we get any funds from Pack and Save?
I've finished that. It's almost. It's
Almost.
almost.
I just didn't see
Yes.
it registered on the
No,
balance sheet.
no, and that's why, because I sent Jeremy an email. I haven't heard back from him, but I'll fill you in later. But I need to send him another one with the actual everything. So just to bring you up to speed, I've had a conversation again with Bill in regard to the Rangiowafia Historic Trust. And Bill's going to do us a letter in regard to returning those funds because that trust isn't any longer there and there's just further complications around that project that it will be better that that funding comes back. There has been an initial expense that they did spend, and if it's okay with the community board, I did suggest to Bill that if it's okay that if they want to, they can provide the invoice and then return the balance, seeing as they had already had an expense related to that project. But otherwise, it's okay for that funding to come back into the discretionary pool. And then, do you know what we've got happening with the Te Awamutu Community Health Transport Trust?
No, we'll note that down to find out what is
While it's still
happening
sitting there.
with that one. Also just to note, because you will be looking at a discretionary grant, we'll be looking at, if you want, we can do like a budget report with any kind of activities that projects that you might want to fund yourself in the next agenda.
Okay,
So we
that'd be
can
good.
work
Yep.
towards that.
Yep. I'll get you a list of that.
And we can have some look to see if you want to make some allocations there. So then when you go into your discretionary round, you're
Got to
kinda-
set him out.
you're kind of clear on what you've
Yep.
got available for other groups because you've set a budget for your projects.
Yep, okay, no, that sounds good. Okay, can I have someone to move then that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board receives the report of Nada Milne, Financial Accountant, titled Treasury Report for the period ended 31st of July 2024. Jill, Lou, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, so that's the Treasury Report done and dusted. Hockey dokie, on to the Chair's report. I'll whip through and just take it as read. I'll just double check a couple of things. So you'll see that we received a response to the enhanced annual plan. I just wanted to include that so that it was part of our agenda, but it was pretty cool to see that we've got that we did get a couple of things across the line, including that the Homes Garage idea is at least going to be considered. I know we're short of money, but it'd be nice to see it at least feature in the discussion for the long-term plan. So that was pretty cool. And we got a nod to get some of the walkway underway in the George Street car park. So I was definitely pretty stoked with that. The representation review, well, we've discussed that pretty intensely earlier. I just commented on some of the feedback out at Kihikihi. Dave's already said that, just as an aside, that despite the yellow lines outside the Space Centre, there's still people parking there, parking on those grass bits, and they just drive right across the cycleway and into the reserve still anyway. So, and if anything, it's made it easier because they're all nice, gentle curbs, nice rolly ones now. It's actually easier for them to get into the reserve than what it was previously when it was a little bit steeper. So anyway, it's but it's looking beautiful, and yep.
Just a couple of things. I had some of the contractors come and take me, agricultural contractors out there, Church Street and behind the church. Right, when you're coming from Parawera or from Arapuni with agricultural equipment and turning into Church Street, it's almost impossible. The corner is too sharp.
Oh.
If you have a look, you can see where they've actually run almost up to where the pavement is. So that is something that needs addressing, because you've got a drill or anything, or even a truck with a trailer, even the tankers are running over it. That's milk tankers. So it's
Coming from Whitmore back into Church Street.
Whitmore going into Church Street to go south, which is a normal bypass, because I've done it myself when I was working for Bradfield. So we always cut through that way because it was easier than going up to the T intersection.
Absolutely.
So that's important. The other one is the speed bump that is down in front of the Kiki school is too steep on the ramps, and they are hitting it with their tow bars, and you'll see the big scour marks all over it because it's too steep on the entrance and the exit. And I went over it in my own little Ford car and actually scratched my spoiler in the front of the car.
So they didn't get the height of the thing right.
These are just two criticisms from local contractors. Happy enough with everything else, except that they said that is really quite a concern.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Interestingly, I just can't recall if it had happened. I don't think it had happened prior to the last meeting. So Dave and I've advised the transport team, but with having the buses come with the school kids for when he has school visits. So some of the buses would go down the state highway, turn left into Church Street, and then come around and park in the bus stop. So he had a bus that came around that way thinking they were going to park there and got stuck across the road. And I believe 10, 15 minutes later of going around, the 54-seater finally got out of being stuck and completely blocking the road. And the other one that is still a very common occurrence And I believe one of our community board members may have tried to do this themselves, done a bit of a U-E in Whitmore Street and found that they got partway around and went, oh dear, there's not enough room to get all the way around. So they get, no, you've just owned it, Jill. They get partway round and, you know, are halfway as people are coming around the corner. So hopefully those people coming off the state highway will be going slow enough that there isn't a nasty accident at some point where people are trying to do a 3-point turn in the mouth of Whitmore Street. So there's a few things to probably iron out at some point. But on a positive, I did hear the local cycle club have one of the cycling groups have said it's wonderful riding on the surface. So they enjoy it, so that's good. I've had a quick mention of Waka Kotahi updates, so thank you to Kane and Jill for keeping on Waka Kotahi's case. And it is really neat to see that Brian is providing regular reminders through that liaison meeting that they have with the NZTA. We talked about having a working group for the Recycling Resource Centre. I've had a little bit more of a conversation with Joe prior to our meeting, and we ideally need to sort out who's going to be on that committee with, working group before we actually make a resolution to set it up. So as part of setting it up, we need to know who's going to be on it. So Kane and Sally, I think you guys were the ones that were going to look after that. So it'd be great if you were able to get a couple of people that we can co-opt into that working group from the community, like what we discussed, so that at the next one we can make a recommendation to set up the working group with these people as part of it. And I expect probably someone to move
just
on.
to be clear, is there any timeline we're trying to aim for to include it in any submissions or anything like that? LTP and things like that?
Well, yeah, no, so we talked about that, and I'm going to hand over to Jo because she'll remember better than I did.
I mean, I think it would be good to connect in with Melissa regarding timing. This might be something that is, is more of a kind of longer term project where as part of your, a submission on the long term plan this time, the one coming up, you might kind of signal that you're doing some work in this area, and this is kind of, what you found, and you'd be looking to it to be incorporated into the next long term plan. So it might be, I would be having a discussion with you around timing, because I mean, it might be that what you've got is not, because it'll be about the working group being set up really for the purpose of kind of coming up with the community board submission to the long-term plan on a resource recovery centre, because we've got to kind of look at kind of the realms of kind of what the community board can do, and it's about kind of advocating for kind of projects in its community, which this would fall into. So it will be depend on kind of, timing where you're at, when what info you've got, when the long-term plan submissions are called for, and maybe, what information you might be able to feed into things. But I'd connect as well with Melissa to kind of talk about planning and timing and around that.
Yeah, so, well, that could be, but if we can start working towards it. So we'll just sit on that one for now. And, but I just wanted to bring it up so that we highlighted it and can keep it moving. Sally?
Oh, you keep going. I just don't think we've got on here about our rubbish collection on the 29th.
Yeah, I have. So the Christmas tree, now I understand that, and since I wrote this, that there was some talk about the Kihikihi and residents and ratepayers had looked at the tree. Lou, I believe they've decided against it. Yep, they're going to do the wooden ones instead. So the tree is still available. However, in the response to my chair report, it was clarified that as a community board, we're not actually allowed to buy a Christmas tree. We're not allowed to own anything. So that kind of might put the kibosh on even bothering to discuss that unless we wanted to make a recommendation to council for council to purchase it. So I still just wanted to discuss it, see what we thought. I mean, I'm kind of thinking that if a group came to us and it was part of applying for funding and someone, I'm just not sure if it's the right thing for us, but
And
thoughts?
surely we can get a Christmas tree closer than Gisborne. That was my concern, and I know a little bit about it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Having, and I'd like to speak against it as well, because it was actually taken down in Gisborne and they didn't want it back. So he purchased it and he's trying to make a profit on it. And there would be a significant cost to transport it here, not just the purchase price, but the actual loading it on a
Yeah,
truck.
so I
Plus
put
all
the,
of the costs. So
Yeah.
there's quite, and every time you put it up, you've had to have road safety management, all of the
Yeah.
above, and the
so,
crane.
so those costs are built into that. So yeah, like basically just to explain it quickly, we were talking about $5,000 up front to start with. And then I don't know if I put it in here, but there was then an additional, oh yeah, the cost to get it fixed up, which was going to be another $3,000 or $4,000. And then I sort of thought, look, we've got the little wooden Christmas trees as well. And to me, you know, like having a big Christmas tree would be lovely, but you've got the added thing of if you put it up high, we've got extra resource consent, and it just kind of started to get, I don't want to be a piker, but it just started to get a bit hard. But I mean, so we're happy to leave it? Yep. Okay, I will let him know. More importantly, because this is coming up very fast on Sunday, the 29th of September, our clean up Te Awamutu, I should have said Awamutu-Kihikihi on here. It was a bit remiss of me, sorry. That's what Sally was missing, the Awamutu-Kihikihi part. So we need to put together a small budget for our clean up day. Are we still happy with the day we want, being Sunday, the 29th of September? I hope I have this figure right because I went to go and double check it and I didn't, but last time we spent $177, which would be about right based on the 800 and something that's left. And Kane said he's still got plenty of supplies left. And I was meant to ask Bill yesterday, I knew there was something I needed to ask him. The hire of the Alpha meeting room is $50. I've got that right?
25 an hour and half an hour.
It's $50 for half a day.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, because I suggested that we could maybe meet there. Do you want some business or not?
Are we doing both Kihikihi and Te Awamutu, or?
Well, that's what we need to decide. Do we want to do both, or are we just going to do Kihikihi? If we're doing both, we're going to need to sort out some sort of timing. Shoot, that's my watch going off. So thoughts? Kane, it's your baby. You go first.
You have to put a bit more thought into it, to be honest. I have to come back to you.
Well, we kind of need to, we can't, because we're going to have to make some sort of budget
Can I just put
resolution
something on?
with spending money.
$300.
Yeah, the urban miners
Yep.
possibly going to be doing a collection on the 29th of September, because on the 6th of October,
Yeah.
there's a huge rugby tournament. So we are unable to utilise that facility.
On that one.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'd be asking for support for urban miners on the 26th, possibly, because it's the only,
29th.
otherwise we'll have to drop out completely for the whole month.
Okay, that's worth taking into account. So what are our thoughts? We need to
Sorry,
make
hang
a
on. So
decision
hang on,
around
Hang
this.
on, Lou. So when is the tournament?
6th.
6th.
The 6th, yeah, but so that would be a normal, sorry.
That's Sunday,
Right.
no?
That would be a normal day.
Yeah.
So we're thinking putting it either earlier or waiting all together. We'll make the decision on Sundays, the urban miners collection that we're having at the sports club.
Okay.
So we'll make that decision
So
there from urban miners' point of view.
So
Okay.
why don't we just make the base, the Alpha?
But we could make the base the Alpha, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we do it all out of there for the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi. So we just need a budget of say, I don't know, just say 500 max.
Well, we've still got that $800 sitting there. So do we need
It's
to
a
move
different-
another resolution to spend more money, or seeing as we didn't use that?
No, I think you need to do a a new one, new financial year.
Okay,
Um,
all right, so Joe was whizzing us up some money. And then we can work out the cement. It's only around the money that we need to do our resolution, eh? We don't need to, and we've set the date. So we're okay with the date,
Yeah.
being Sunday, the 29th. What time do we want to start?
We'll sort it out later.
We can sort that out. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that because otherwise we'll be here all night.
39, it's not-
So similar time, based at the Alpha. We'll do some cups of tea and a bit of
We can-
food
we've got-
again,
we
like
can
what
have
we did last
facilities.
time. Are you guys okay to do that?
Yep.
And if we allow $300, so would you like to move a resolution that we allow $300 towards? Oh, she's already ahead of me. Okay.
500.
just check your.
That,
okay with
500?
what I've got
Okay,
up there.
so that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board approves expenditure up to $500 from its uncommitted discretionary funds to pay for all costs associated with the town cleanup day for Te Awamutu-Kihikihi to be held on Sunday, the 29th of September. The costs include facility hire, gloves, rubbish bags, and any unspent money returned to the community
Yep.
discretionary fund.
Yep.
Yep. Do you want to move that, Kane?
I'll move that.
Oh, hold on, sorry.
Be more
Hold.
specific with we could be more specific with the facility hire, because that way Alpha gets some recognition.
Oh,
in
yeah,
our
we can. pop-
Communication,
that's
and
all
I
right. Yep.
like that idea of plugging the
Yep.
Alpha, so.
Include hire of the Alpha Community Room Centre.
And we look forward to
Still
seeing
leaving
everybody.
hotel or just the Alpha now? Yeah, thought you were. Alpha,
So there's just gonna be one. base, no
Community
base in
centre.
Te Mura?
at this point, we're not going to have a base in Te Awamutu from the sounds. We're just going to base it at
Don't want a contingency base, no.
Yeah,
Um,
have a contingency base. We may find that we need one.
In any other room hire.
required. Yep, okay. Okay, is that all right?
Yep.
Righto, so we're good with that. Kane
Yep.
to move,
Yeah, I'll move that.
Sally to second, all in favour,
Community
Against?
Yeah.
carried,
Centre. Just centre, not.
just
community.
centre. Okay, have a Memorial Park meeting tomorrow, so I'll report back on that next time. Other communication, I had been in touch with Rotary, just sent them off a email asking Jill to raise, ask if there was an opportunity that Rotary might be able to assist us or the group, the combined services group, to have consider some of these projects. I have noted that in response from the staff, I would just like to reply that in the staff's comments, it says they would like to be advised about the Pikaro, the comments in regard to specifically on this one, lowering the gate in the doggy park. They actually were. It was in my chair report dated the 27th of March. I raised the fact that the gate was a problem and a dog could easily get under it, and pointed out that this was up to a medium-sized dog because that's how big mine is, and he went straight under the gate with a little bit of a wiggle. I again, in our submission to the annual plan, asked for permission to get the small issues that were there addressed, which I said including fixing the gate. But I'd like to clarify, I never said it was broken. I just said it needed fixing, meaning that it either needs lowering or something needs to go under it to stop dogs getting out. The response came back in March that there was, so in reply to my March chair report, I just got a blanket, there was no budget to do anything. And then you'll note that in the annual plan response that we received, that I included with this agenda, they said that the stormwater team were doing work there and they were going to do some work, including pathways and trees as part of that work. So I just wanted to clarify that they have been advised about the gate. And then the other bits are pretty self-explanatory. Yesterday, as I've already mentioned, I was at the LTP workshop, which was pretty full on. but it was definitely worthwhile, just as a quick aside in there. Next page, yeah, the security webinar that I tapped into with, was definitely interesting. There seems to be quite a lot of, I've used the word in here that social media seems to be responsible for amping people up. I just want to comment that on a personal thing, I think that social media provides a lot of people with the same opinion to come together. So, and it also provides them with a platform to be very brave, because they don't have to often front things. So they do tend to, get a bit carried away. But there is a way of managing social media in a safe way. Caught up with Shane, so have kept in close contact with him in regard to that Main Street and the Who Are We survey, so we'll come back on that. I haven't managed to get hold of the gentleman I met at the Knit and Natter group, only because his wife hasn't been well, so I have just left that, but I will get back to that, because they made the comment that there are a number of places through town that are very difficult for people in wheelchairs to be able to get on and off the footpath to the street. So I'll get in touch with him and come back on that one as well. So that's my report. So I'll move.
Sorry, Ange, just before you finish.
Oh, if you've got any questions, sorry.
They're not questions, but you mentioned the other communications with the combined services group. Does that involve the Three Lions Clubs?
Yes, so yeah, that was through Jill Johnson. So I just sent an email to Jill, and she was going to let them know.
And secondly, possibly to Joe, would council have any objection to some of those, like lowering a gate and fixing those things? They're quite basic jobs. And most of our Lions Club or Rotary, between the two of them, they could sort that out quite simply. But would council have any objection to those things getting done, or do you have to go through council to get
You
them
do
done?
have to go through council, so that would be about, contacting the relevant manager and talking to them about that, yeah.
And don't forget the meat sheet.
No, actually, yeah, that's true too. They could be. Well, we'd been talking about the men's shed for a seat if we needed to get a seat, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I also had a meeting with Ken Herbert in regard to the sign at the entrance, and it does need a little bit of a zhuzh up, but maybe I'm not quite sure where to go with that at the minute. So if anyone's got any bright ideas, that we could do something to make it look a little bit more attractive without having to spend a lot of money there. There was an interesting few comments on Facebook where there was quite strong feelings around changing things. So the comments were that, like, oh, why are we pulling it down and having to replace it? And so I actually went in and said, I never said we were pulling it down and replacing it. I just said it needed a bit of love and attention. So, yeah, if there's any sort of ideas, if you go past, it's the one down by Gold Pine. And there's a bit that's sort of come off it. I'm not sure what was there. There's some roses under it. So when the roses are out, it looks a bit nicer. And I think the Lions emblem has been replaced, and that's quite nice and new. But a couple of the others have got very worn, and I think one of them, you can't even really read it. So yeah, if there's any suggestions, we could maybe look at doing something with that.
Because when we did
Jill?
have a meeting, going social media, and I think it was the newspapers, but because I'd mentioned at our meeting when we talked about it, maybe just as a throwaway comment, maybe the high school could, try and think what they could do with it and design something. But it was never said that I was even going to approach them. But in the newspaper, listen to our program, us here, and then it was in the newspaper that Jill Taylor said she's going to the high school to get them to design. And
Yeah.
no, it was just a throwaway comment. So it just shows how the social media can throw things.
But you can sometimes get a bit of a flavour, can't you? And I know there were a number of comments that were, oh, they're always pulling everything down. And it's like, well, we're not pulling it down. We're just, well, not at this stage. We're not responsible for pulling it down. So, yeah, John?
if we do that sign up,
Mm.
just a comment from my neighbour, is it possible to put the RSA sign up there? Because the RSA does put a lot back into the community and it'd be actually quite nice to have.
I
that.
want to say there isn't, I thought there was, no, there's a Rotary, isn't there? Yeah, well, I suppose we could put, yep, that could be something we could consider. Hopefully, we would need to obviously ask council, but yep. So have a little think about it. Let's then come, pardon me, back to that one. Just trying to think of anything else that I need to update you on, but I can't think of it. So, and we're starting to come around to having to have a compulsory rest. So I will press on. So, I need to, am I allowed to move my report or do I get?
Yeah.
Okay, just for the fun of it. That the Te Awamutu, I'll move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board received my report, Chairperson Te Awamutu of Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board, titled Chair Report, and B, that we received the staff responses to the Chairperson's report. So I'll move it. Someone second it. Bruce, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Any comments from places that you guys have been and seen, attended? We'll start with our councillors, seeing as they had a little rest. I think they've been launched right back into it at full throttle this August. So anything?
For welcoming our new chief executive,
Yes.
Steph O'Sullivan, which a few of us were there. It's that amazing. Since then, we had a meeting the next day and we've, busy. But I don't believe one. Had more spare time than me.
I don't know. No, it's exactly the same. Sorry, exactly the same. Prior to that, went to the ratepayers meeting, the Kiki Rural and ratepayers. So that was interesting. Just listened and touched base, had a look around. Very, very positive. We went out to the Kalpa Hotel with the young people coming in for the health department. That was very, very positive. They followed up with some phone calls and everything. So I was very, very pleased and quite, chuffed with it. So it's something that I think that Bill will develop, I hope, and on a monthly basis. And that's all. Sorry, Pixie, I'll put you on the spot there. Also, the came in from that was the fact that the doctors that currently see people for free in Kiki at the school could perhaps be relocated to the Alpha, which is a much better location. Could work quite well. And that was it for me. I'm very much like Bruce, pretty busy.
Right. Anyone else been seen? Jill?
So I went with Lou, we went to the
Oh, yes.
latest.
Not on.
Sorry, so I went last week to the local Kihikihi Residents and Ratepayers Association meeting, and we actually talked about, Pixie was our scribe, and we had a lot of different ideas, gosh, maybe 30 or 40 ideas about what the Kihikihi hub could look like, and I'm sure that as a community board we'll be able to support them wholly. So really interesting, which is all the different things that the community wanted to see happening there. Not all at once, otherwise would be a bit too much, but it was fantastic, just this, the ideas that everyone came up with.
Perhaps you could just send out an email to them.
Pixie has given me all the huge big long list of everything there, so it's great, so I can share that with you. Also, I went to the welcome for the CEO for Steph too, and that was great to see, and lovely support that she had from Whakatane too, that had come to support her. And just on the side, my fitness circuit goes in September, so there'll be an opening at the end of the month, so that's quite exciting. So yeah.
Yep. So we're having a proper little.
Oh well,
opening or-
definitely.
So
got to organise something.
So
Yep.
do we need any money or? do
No,
we need
I've
to
got all
do
that.
anything?
Yep, been given that.
So
So
that, no, I mean for the. for
yeah,
the-
been given that. Yeah.
For cutting
Got-
ribbon ceremony.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
I've got.
Jill Taylor.
Yeah,
So
I
have-
know, I've been
Yeah.
given some money for the opening ceremony.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Yep.
Okay, but we don't know when that's going to.
No, I'm just waiting. It's meant to be mid-September it goes in, but it probably depends a little bit on the weather too. So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So
Awesome.
probably
Well done, Jill.
officially the end of September.
Yeah, well done. It's been
Yeah, thank you.
a really awesome project. Looking forward to seeing that.
On the Tuesday, the 5th of September at Te Awamutu Sports Club, we're holding a meeting with Aged Concerned. We're talking, just listening to their concerns. So that's being organised through Grey Power and Michael Cullen, and we're hoping to have most of the service groups there, including RSA.
5th of September.
So, yeah, it's at 1 o'clock through till about 2:30. So just listening, talking to all of us about their concerns in the community and what's happening, and looking at what we can do to replace what was senior council.
Oh, yeah. To replace senior council. Has there, Lou, and has there been hasn't been anything that's come up at council that you think directly impacts community board at all that we need to be keeping our eye out for?
We've been coasting on the LTP, haven't we, really? Sorry, we have been working on the LTP. So in the short term, no.
Yep.
Other than your discretionary fund, which I learned about, and I wasn't able to attend because I had another meeting that night.
Yep.
But other than that, no, not a lot at the moment.
Oh, I've just thought of something else. John. Just like a brief kind of thing of what you got up to, and then if we can, like if you can have a written one that we can put in for next time, that'd be great. But just the highlights from the conference.
Yeah. Just to say, I did go to.
Have you got your thing on?
Yeah, Stephanie O'Sullivan's welcoming on Monday as well.
Cool. Thank you for getting along to that.
Yeah. Right. Community Board Conference, 25th to the 27th of August, 2024. I very much appreciated the opportunity to attend the Community Board Conference representing the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board. The conference commenced on Wednesday afternoon with an official welcome by Maori dignitaries and senior members of local government New Zealand. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon gave his address, and you've all probably heard that, with the CEO of Wellington City Council replying. The Honourable Simone Brown, Minister of Local Government, addressed the conference on Thursday morning. After that, the councillors stayed in that room and the community board people went down to another room. And we had 5 sessions which were held over the 2 days. Speakers included mayors, deputy mayors, community board representatives, CEOs of various organisations and other prominent members of the community. The first thing that came up was bringing localism to life. The focus was to promote national interest in local government. Control should be placed as near to the people as possible. Bringing socialism to life, educating the community about the role of the community wards, growing partnerships with Maori, recognising their ancestral knowledge. This address was about connecting, sharing information, supporting one another, and having the courage to lead from the front. Second, resilience as an elected member. We as the community board members need to be resilient. We need to be able to connect, listen, be involved, take notice, be active and keep learning. There was a focus on mental health, not only of the community in general, but the individual community board members. The message here was to let nature in. If the land was healthy, the people will be healthy. 3, this third session. Tackling climate change with grassroots solutions. The adverse effects of climate change are worse than we think. The earth has its limits. Climate change is having an impact on us, our children, and on future generations. The message here was that we must evaluate the effects of the decisions we make now will have on the future landscape, where we build, how we build, what we build. What will the landscape look like in 100 years? If we do not address climate change issues now, how are we going to respond to such issues as rising sea levels, flooding, major weather events, and the like? All facets of the community must be involved, from young people to elders, if we are to build security of our future. Session 4, Localism in Action, working with the communities to build resilience. There was an address by the Deputy Mayor and Community Board member from Wakatani. They spoke of how they responded to the Wakakari White Island disaster. They spoke of what they had learned about their community, about themselves, and how they have grown together as a community. Oh shit, this was a very moving address. It was very, very moving. It brought it all home, especially then I've been down that area and things and seen it and all the rest of it. Yeah. And the next speakers on this one was, there were also speakers from the Drowning Prevention and Lifesaving New Zealand. They were promoting water safety at beaches, rivers, lakes and swimming spots. Their goal is to have flotation devices accompanying signage available at such locations. They want councils behind this initiative. This is localism in action. Now, halfway through the 5th session, the fire alarm went off and we all had to get out of the building. And I don't know how many people, but we all evacuated within about a quarter of an hour. By the time we got out, the first fire engine had turned up. There was something happened in the kitchen. That was drama. The focus, 5, building strong connections with communities and relationships with the councils. The focus here was on building strong connections with the community and with council and councillors. Clear communication and respect for one another was the core message. Try to see issues from different perspectives, but acknowledge your own values and beliefs while accepting that others may have different values and beliefs. Be positive in your outlook. This forms a sound basis for working together. Involvement with the community can come in many forms. One panellist spoke on involvement when teaching others how to grow food. This is sort of in the disaster area. Another spoke on disaster response. Another making the community safer for those walking in it. A representative from Predator Free Wellington spoke on the initiative to rid certain areas of Wellington of venom. Each speaker was focused on working with the community to enhance their environment. And that went from every speaker that addressed us. Like we'd have a speaker, we'd give an address, then another speaker, and then we'd have an armchair sessions and things like that. So whole lots of different ideas and different people were involved. Community Board Dinner and Awards. Having the opportunity to speak informally with members of other community boards was invaluable. The awards highlighted what other community boards had achieved within their district. And the other highlight was the flight delays due to weather conditions both to and from Wellington caused a few headaches, but overall it was a very valuable experience. I really enjoyed it.
Right. Oh, it sounds like there's some good stuff out of that. I haven't been back to check, but I believe a good number of the presentations are actually available on the conference website. So if anyone's interested in any of the presentations, you can go and have a look, and they're supposed to be videoed there. So I'm not sure that all of them are, but a good number of them, I believe, were going to be made available. So there were a couple I wanted to go and watch, so we'll get on to them.
T-Rail, I think, got one of the senior awards for some work they've done on a park in the back of T-Rail, and it was, really, really accepted, and yeah, it was really great. And there was even a community board from North Auckland, Northland, had put in a thing, and they'd been recommended too, so it was really neat.
For a park, okay. Lovely. Anyone else got anything else that they wanted to bring up? I just wanted to mention that I did have a PCG meeting with staff, and that it went well, didn't it, Joe? We had a good go through. I will send out the risk register again, just so you can have a look at if there's anything there that needs updating. I did raise a couple of things on our behalf, so I've asked if we were able to have the minutes come back to us as a draft. So I asked for that. I just commented that the last this one definitely is an exception, but that we weren't getting a lot of information on our agenda. And we talked about either getting the quarterly reports back, or Brad came up with a really good suggestion that was to have
Is it something
their forward,
Yeah.
what they've got coming up.
that's something governments have been working on developing a, it's going to be done by group. So each group will produce kind of their top couple of projects in each side of the district, and report on that.
So I thought that sounded really good, that it's stuff that's coming up. So that's going to be happening. I did comment about the community board updates, that I felt that there often was not a lot of value. No, it's not that it's not valuable information, but there often were things that didn't pertain to us. I think recently there was one about a health hui that I said, well, do you want us to go to that? You know, like, what is the relevance of that? Yeah, everything. They were just things to raise, really, that that have be good that we could have a look at. I asked if I could be able to get into the building instead of being locked out on the step, and Debs has come through, and I have my own swipey card now, so I'm feeling very important. Never felt so important in my life that I have my own swipey thing. I think that was that. Can you think of anything else from PCG? I just wanted to let everyone know.
Sorry, Ange, so with the draft minutes, that's going to be happening?
Oh, I just remembered. Yes.
Oh, no, that's
Yes.
great, because I mean, I didn't comment on today's because I can't remember from 2 months ago. Yeah.
So yes, and I did just want to highlight that the next 6 months are going to be very important. We've got quite a few submissions coming up. So we've just done the local alcohol, we've just done the representation, but we're going to have the Ahuaki, we've got Māori wards. No, that won't come back to us now. Okay, so, okay, I thought that that was one that they'd said. But there definitely is quite a lot coming up. Ahuaki will be September, October by the sounds of things. So I'm pretty sure that that covers it. Right.
Do you, and just want to refer to your updates in your chair's report? So I can put this in the minutes.
Hang on, what am I doing?
You attended the PCG
Oh.
and provided updates on attendances.
Yep.
Just say that now.
Yeah,
As
that's
part- Yeah, well, if you just say that and just say the rest of my updated attendance is a part of my chair's report.
Oh, okay.
So if you just say that.
Righto, so my updated attendance is part of my chair's report. Okay? Cool, okay.
Excuse
right.
me, Ange, we got an email about Keep New Zealand Beautiful, and since I've been on the community board, I don't think we've actually done that. Do we do that? It was just an email came out last week
So
telling
we
everyone
used
it's coming up.
to have a group that keep Te Awamutu beautiful.
It's not done as a community board thing?
No,
It's a separate committee which isn't in existence anymore. Okay.
no, yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah. Righto, where are we up to, Joe? Chair's report, members. Okay. Ooh.
Anyone else?
No, I don't think so. I did ask. There was no more takers. So, time to close. No, I've got to do that last. Oh no, I can do the date and then my karakia. So the date of the next meeting, so the next Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board is to be held at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 25th of September, 2024. And as I have lovely guests here, would Bill, you like to do our closing karakia? Or Dale? Marie? Oh, there's one there, probably, yes, please, if that's appropriate.
Kia ora te hui. Tēnā tātou nā tanohi o te hapori. tēnā koutou o koutou mahi, o koutou kaimahi i tēnei pō, he nui o koutou mahi, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tātou atua katoa, tūturu whakamaua kia tīna, tēnā haumie huie tai ki e. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, Dale Marie, thank you. So that closes our meeting at, 8:56. So just in the nick of time for not having to have a compulsory break. Yeah. Hi, Gina. And yeah, we just might want to do a quick toilet break. And hello, there's Craig. Hi, Craig. I'm just going to let my community board have a quick toilet break because we've been going for 3 hours. And apologies for keeping you waiting, but we did have a lot to get through. Pardon?
Okay.
No, you're very welcome to be here because it's about the alpha. So happy with the Māori wards result the other day? Righto, all yours.
All right. Is that all mine, you mean?
Yep, all yours, Gina.
All right. Good evening. Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah, look, we won't keep you too long. Obviously, you've had a big night and the agenda was pretty full. But so we are here just to engage with you with regards to the Kiki Community Hub / Sports Hub feasibility study. So just a little bit of background from this project. There was funding allocated through the last long-term plan for feasibility study to be completed, and these were as a result of submissions from the Kiki community ratepayers group and wider group, and also the Kiki domain user group. So the user group was sort of wanting a sports hub of some kind to be considered, and potentially to have facilities to hire out to the community or to be used by the community as well. And then the residents and ratepayers group, supported by the community, wider community, were looking for a community hub based within the village. So this funding was allocated, and so looking at the stakeholders within, both of those areas were very similar. So it was decided that we would combine the feasibility study. And so we have started engagement with the stakeholders. And at this stage, this is just a stakeholder only engagement. We're not going to the wider community, just purely because this is a very, very first step in what would be a really long process to get to a point where potentially there might be funding allocated through a long-term plan at some stage to support a project if the feasibility study identifies that need. So I just need to be really clear from the get-go. There is no funding at this point allocated for anything other than this first stage of engagement with stakeholders. So Craig from Visitor Solutions and I are working on this, and so I'll introduce him. I will let him introduce himself and just sort of have a little chat. We're really keen to get feedback from community board around your thoughts and ideas of potentially what the Kiki community and or domain could use. So yeah, Craig, fire away.
Kia ora, Gina. Kia ora, everybody. My name's Craig Jones. I work for a company called Visitor Solutions, and as Gina said, we're working together on this piece of work, which is wonderful. We've had sort of a series of discussions with people and commenced that, and we've done one sort of round of talking with people, doing site walks with groups that are at the domain. We've met with the Alpha Restoration Trust. We've met with the ratepayers and residents group. We've been getting good information from everybody that we've been talking to. So it was interesting to pick up the conversation around some of the information that came from the latest session that the ratepayers and residents group had. So we've got that information and just digesting that. And tomorrow we're about to embark on a second round of discussions with stakeholders. So we'll be going to sports clubs and community groups tomorrow as well. So as Gina said, it's kind of the first stage of this piece of work. We didn't kind of want to ambush you tonight and say, right, come up with all the solutions and all of the ideas. We wanted to give you a bit of time to mull things over and kind of talk with people, and then come back with sort of a response and some ideas. So we're not trying to put you on the spot tonight. We're very open to getting a little bit of a flavour for your thinking tonight, but you're most welcome to kind of think about it over the next few weeks and come back to Gina via email, and all of those thoughts will be put into the study. So yeah, thank you very much for having us tonight, and thanks very much for letting us do a little bit of introduction for the project. So maybe if we just turn it over to the chairperson and maybe just go around the room and just get some initial thoughts. And
Thanks, Craig. And I've actually met you back in July when you came through and we had the discussion actually at the Alpha.
right.
Yep, in regard to the hub. Certainly think that it's a great idea. I unfortunately wasn't able to get along to the meeting the other night, and as part of this discussion, I remembered that I've got a survey that I needed to get to Rory. And I think I said I was going to send it, so I'll flick it through to Gina when I was just sort of having a quick squiz to see if I could find it just then. Lady Margaret Day and Sally, can't remember her last name for the minute, had done a little Kihikihi community survey through Facebook asking what things the community wanted. So it just could be a helpful little document. It's not too full on it. I think we asked about 10 different questions. So we did it on a Survey Monkey without paying money. So that something like that, I can't quite remember, but that's available. Like for me, I think the job that Bill's done to date out at the Alpha is really great. It's great to see it having some love. And it's a great little spot there, being across from the reserve, the Māori Women's Welfare League, the church. It sort of makes a sensible space. So yeah, for me, it's really about what the community out there wants, and I'm happy to support it. So that's probably my bits. So I'll go this way. So we'll have Kane, thoughts and.
Yeah, I need to probably see more detail, to be honest, but I'm supportive of a hub being set up out there, but I'm keen to see more information just to kick me off. Thoughts?
I don't think I can actually really contribute much at all. I'm very supportive of something like this, but without knowing too much about it, I'll back it forever, I think. But need to know a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I actually attended the last Kiki Repos in residence, and so I was a bit aware of what you've just received. Pixie did a great job writing up on the wall, and I'm very, very supportive of the idea of having something like a hub, and it's got a good location. And the other thing, of course, is the building has a heritage status, which means that it will be an important part of the history, and that part of it can be played a little bit with what we can create within that infrastructure. So it has that history component. And I do think that the disparate to the sports hub that we're talking about, that perhaps is going to be back at the park, this is going to be quite separate to that, I think, in a lot of ways, because the sports hub is where people are actually going to be playing ground sports, and I'm heavily involved in TA sports. So I know that they are just quite disparate things. We're looking at having people like, let's just say Mobility Scooter Club come in and use something like in the Alpha, or people that can go and play cards. We just closed from the council the Selwyn Park Village Hall, and I just made a suggestion to them, if the Alpha gets up, there's a great place to go and have a cup of tea and that type of thing. So I'm so positive of the whole idea, and I think it's really, really, really representative both Bill, Pixie and your team to what you've done. Well done.
Yeah, I totally agree with Bill, because I was at the last meeting too, where say Pixie was a scribe, and we had a few different, just the people who were there, and there was quite a few people there, came up with a list of things under health and wellbeing. There was about 15 different things could be done under education, half a dozen different things, under community services, another 20 things. So they came out with lots of different ideas, not saying they all have to happen at once, but just a fantastic idea. And a lot of the things are user pays. If people are going to use part of the building, it will be user pays. So I think even if it starts small, there's no reason why it can't start soon. And as the Alpha grows, if that's where it's going to be, then the hub can grow. But and like Lou was saying, there's a free doctor out at the school. You know, they could be there once a week. So there's just so much opportunity at the Alpha, and so many different ideas just in that one meeting that we had. You know, I think I've read there's about 45 ideas of what we could be doing there, and a lot of it is user pays, whether it's a small amount or a bigger amount, and there'll be a cafe there. So just fantastic. So I think the sooner it can get off its feet, the better. It's wonderful. But Craig, it was great listening to you at the Alpha and your ideas and your support for this as well. That was great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very, very briefly, I'm in support of any community. I think it needs to be bottom up, you know, movement from the ground up, and it'll take momentum and swelling, but it needs to be owned by the community and ground up, ground swell, basically. That's me.
Where do you envisage putting this community hub? I take it you're looking at the Domain?
I guess, oh, sorry, John.
You go, Gina. No, you go, and then I'll go.
I'll go. So I guess the part of this study, actually, there is nothing predetermined. You know, yes, we did absolutely visit the Alpha, and you know, I've seen the great work that Bill's doing there and his team. But this study actually isn't sort of about, you know, the Alpha is there, let's use that. This study is about actually taking into consideration all of the facilities that we actually have, and can they be used better, you know, whether we down the road there's an opportunity to invest more money, or actually is it need for something totally different as well? Is there need for more than one if the community are telling us that there's this massive need for all of these things? So just be really mindful that there is nothing predetermined at this point. This is about just pulling in all of the information that we can gather in terms of what facilities or what infrastructure we have, but then also to the needs of the community, the needs of the sports, the user groups, and then kind of putting that in the pot and then working out actually what would be best fit for purpose for this community to achieve what it wants to achieve.
Because
I think that's exactly right. I mean, the key thing is nothing is preordained. We're just going in, as one of the early speakers said, and listening from the bottom up. So it's about listening at the moment. So we're just doing a lot of time listening, processing all of that, and we'll probably be in a better position to answer that question once we're near the end of the study. But it's we're keeping a very open mind at the moment.
Because I remember we had a discussion at the Stockade 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I think you were there. It was just an opening of what we could do and what you're trying to achieve now. But there was that area was available. I'm just sort of, no doubt you'll be looking at that as well, because what you're doing is great, and I back what Bill's doing, because at present what Bill's doing fills a void before we get to this new facility. That's the best way of putting it.
Might not need to double up.
or might not need to double up, absolutely. And again, that's why we're doing what we're doing, just to work out, yeah, what we need.
So thank you for sort of that round of just putting some ideas and support out there. So as I said at the beginning, you know, we don't want to ambush anybody now. So there's plenty of time to give this some thought and send your ideas back to Gina. And we'll carry on talking to key stakeholders and pulling information together, and then be able to provide you with a briefing once we're a bit further along.
That sounds good. So no one's got any absolutely burning must-haves for out there at all?
No, my only burning must-have, or not really burning must-have, is what's your time frame? So you're talking about having a report, sort of approximately, what's your timeline, please?
So we want to get that sorted out this side of Christmas, definitely. We're actioning some things. For example, offered to help the Alpha Restoration Trust just to work on a few things that we've been actioning out the side of the project, if you like, to just keep things rolling along for them. And we'll basically work through it. We've had a little bit of a delay just in being able to connect with everybody. So we'll probably be in a better position to give you a definitive timeline once we've finished getting around all of the groups. Some people weren't able to meet with us when we had our first round of conversations.
Is there anything that the community board could potentially do to assist, knowing that we are particularly busy and have lives outside of but you know, it's our community, it's our interest, and is there anything that potentially we could possibly do? But
Gina, probably open to you. I mean, I guess we've got to get through the next little session of talking to people and then see if we've got any gaps, really, I think.
Yeah, and I think that might be the key, Sally. Thank you for the offer. We will get through this sort of next round, and then once we sort of sit down and have a look at what we have, and if we can identify, you know, some gaps within that space, then we'll definitely come back to you. But again, just being really mindful that this is stakeholder engagement, like we're not going to the wider community. Obviously, that will absolutely be something, you know, if this first stage identifies the need for and that progression starts, we'll definitely go wider community, but just currently it is just stakeholder. But look, if we come up with, like I say, some gaps, then we'll absolutely come to you for help if we think you can support and are able to, that'd be great.
And
Cool.
thank
No,
you for that
the
offer.
offer's there. Yeah, the offer's there. So if there's
Awesome.
anything we can do. I've flicked you through that email with the results of that survey. So if I can get you to send that to Craig.
Yeah, cool. No problem.
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Oh.
And that's sort of a little snippet of just random people that completed the survey.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Oh,
Sorry, Pixie, have you got a question, Pixie?
Oh, I don't know whether it's so much a question, but I just want everyone to bear in mind that, you know, we've got.
Oh, yeah, you probably should say it on there, Senior.
I don't
Sorry,
know whether it's so much a
sweet.
question, but I just wanted everyone to bear in mind that Kihikihi Skate Park has been on the agenda for quite some time. And I just see an opportunity to combine the two things together, since the council already own land on Havelock Street, the same street that the Alpha is on. And you could have, like Hamilton Western Community Centre, a skate park next to the community hub, so that one feeds the other and vice versa. It just would make so much sense than to be thinking about a stockade proposal, you know, for us Māori. We take offence to a skate park being built up there. And I'm talking from me and my whānau's perspective, okay? So yeah, I just want people to know that. Thanks.
Cool. No, thank you. I thought that Bill and I'd had a little bit of a chat about that yesterday and thought that could have some potential. So don't know if that's a possibility, Gina, that maybe, seeing as you've been in charge of trying to find somewhere for the skate park, that could be investigated, because I understand now that the stockade is probably off the is not any longer an option, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's a totally different discussion to this point, but definitely something I can take back to the team. So, yeah.
Well,
so
yes
again,
and no, because it could definitely be part of a community hub. And as Pixie says, that Western Community Centre do it really, really well with the way that they've put the skate park, you know, basically alongside that precinct, and it does actually work very well as a precinct with out there. It's worth probably having a look at.
Yeah, and there's obviously a site optioneering process that we, have been through and have to go through in terms of a skate park. So until we kind of identify that they can both go together, I think they are two separate conversations. But like I say, really happy to take that on board and feed that back to that team as well. So. But yeah, look, thank you. Thanks so much for your time. And if there's anything like Craig says, just please feel free, flick me an email or even give me a call. Really happy to have a chat. At any point.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you staying up half the night to talk to us, and apologies again for taking quite so long to get to the workshop part. So
That's all right. All good.
okay,
Thank you
Paul
very much,
Maria.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.